What's going on, everybody? You're tuned in to another episode of the Mulatto Monday with yours truly, Mulatto Vanguard. See, we got Sharp in the house. Shout out to you.
Spartans! What is your profession?
That's what's up. So, obviously, it's kind of late in the evening. I'm used to doing these a little bit earlier, except when it's on the weekend, right? Obviously, everybody has got stuff to do. So, without further ado, I'm going to pull this up right now. Found this interesting article that I'm going to dissect. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I am going to read it and, of course, provide my commentary on it. And this article is from Psychology Today, which is a major publisher, and it's the Biracial Advantage. Very interesting, right? Now, people of mixed race occupy a unique position in the United States. Their experiences of both advantage and challenge may reshape how all Americans perceive race. Now, that right there kind of puts us in a position, or they're framing it as if us being utilitarian, right? Us to be utilized as a tool to reshape, literally reshape. Think of it as a tool to how all Americans perceive race. This is something that we see primarily with the left, people within the left, the progressive people, how they are trying to angle and push this whole mixed race situation as it pertains, of course, us mulattoes, but they want to throw us in the same box with everybody else, Pretty much that's what your ghetto hood rat, the multifacial hood booger, wants to do as well. She wants to throw us all, we're all just mixed, we're all the same. When there's a lot of similarities, of course, that we can respect and, of course, acknowledge, but we're not all the same. Not on this channel. So yeah, and then of course getting right into, and then what I was gonna say, yeah. So the position in the U.S., their experiences both advantage, right, and then challenge. So I like that because I used the similar kind of language in regards to that yesterday. That I'm not this victim, this proud victim. That's typically what these left people on the left want to push, this victim narrative, and they can actually literally find financing for it at the university level. The whole SJW grift, intersectionality. It's all about victimhood points, right? And so I'm against the victimhood. My position is challenges. I'm not a victim. Just I do acknowledge the fact that there are unique challenges that I have because of the course racial binary nature. In living in America with the kind of power dynamic historically in the United States with black and white, European, African, etc. And of course, on the fusion of that. And then typically, a lot of us, we are socialized to only go towards one direction, or we find, I guess, a community with one side versus the other. It depends on who you talk to, where they are in America. Class, I think, has a major, plays a major part in that. And your environment, I think, is the critical factor. Your environment, where you grow up at, will kind of shape things for you. But yeah, let me get into this. So, by Jennifer Latson. So she is the key publisher here, Jennifer Latson. I was surprised. I was like, wow, this lady's writing this whole article about biracial identity, the advantage of being biracial. So before I get into the article, let me just share with you guys this lady who is the contributor publisher here for Psychology Today. This is yours truly, Jennifer Latson. Very interesting. So this lady is writing an article about biracial people and the biracial advantage. Let's see what she has to say. So Psychology Today blog, human interest, yeah. This is her page with this particular publication. Jennifer, a Houston-based journalist who has written in New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Boston Globe. Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to kind of start off with that. You guys can kind of get a picture in your head of who wrote this article, right? What position she's going to take. Now, obviously, this is the image that I screened, that I, captured and put on the thumbnail, because these are kind of the stories that they're going to read from some of these people here. We're going to get a little bit more into that, or a lot more into that, as we see. So starting off, one of the most vexing parts of the multiracial experience. So right away, Right away in the first sentence, they're already using this kind of ambiguous language. They start off with biracial advantage. Then they say right here, mixed race. And then you go down to the first sentence of the article, it says multiracial. And may I remind you guys, this is a monoracial woman who has crafted this entire article. Literally Anglo-Saxon woman, right? Jennifer Latson, pure-blooded Anglo-Saxon. She crafted this whole article. And of course, she's already using three different, identity markers. Biracial, which doesn't really express anything, as we're going to find out looking at some of the people who's, they're going to interview. Mixed race doesn't say anything, because you're going to have people like Shaquille O'Neal, even within the golden sphere spaces, right? You said you got people blacker than, you know, take your pick. I like to say blacker than the Black Panther, but they're literally going to tell you, oh, I'm part Native American. I got, ancient white ancestors. So I'm mixed race just like you, right? So that's what the whole mixed race thing, biracial, and of course, multiracial, right? None of those words really mean anything. They're just supposedly supposed to mean me. I came into the whole discussion online publicly, obviously making these videos, providing my commentary. As pretty soon I'm going to be journaling and blogging and etc. But I've always been extremely specific about my position and stance. I'm not going to be thrown in this little bucket, or thrown into this whole pile of everyone else. We're all the same. I don't know. I don't know. My experience is unique, and a lot of people who identify with my experience, obviously, they're going to be more engaged in this channel. They're the people who are going to be commenting, sending me links, emailing me. These are the people who understand it clicks for them. So going right into it, like I said, one of the most vexing parts of the multiracial experience, according to many who identify as such, is being asked, "What are you?" There's never an easy answer, even when the question is posed out of demographic interest rather than leering curiosity. You are typically forced to pick a single race from a list or to check a box marked other. Long before she grew up to be the Duchess of Sussex, I hate how they use her as this example in this large mass media scale. I feel like she gets way too much publicity. She's an actress. So, she loves the spotlight. But then, South Park, they kind of clown her because she doesn't want the spotlight. She doesn't want the negative press, but she wants the positive stuff. She had her whole wedding internationally televised. How many people have that kind of honor and privilege, right? The happiest day of your life to be televised for the whole world. I think they even called it like a fairy tale wedding. That's how they kind of promoted and branded her her ceremony. But like I'm saying, I just feel like they use her because I don't use her in any of my material. Any of my videos, I did one video one of my first videos, I used her image in the thumbnail. I think I still have it up, like one of my first videos. So I only used her once as reference. That's it. I move on. There's so many other people, mulattoes we could talk about. Just I don't like how a lot of people use her as a source, a credible source. Let me continue on. Meghan Markle wrestled with the question on the seventh grade school form. You had to check one of the boxes to indicate your ethnicity: white, black, Hispanic, or Asian. Markle wrote in a 2015 essay, "There I was, my curly hair, my freckled face, my pale skin, my mixed race. Looking down at these boxes, not wanting to mess up, but not knowing what to do. You can only choose one, but that would be to choose one parent over the other, and one half of myself over the other half." And that's kind of my teacher told me to check the box for Caucasian because that's how you look, Megan, which is generally true. Obviously, people kind of go by the phenotype, right? A lot of people think I'm Latino or Puerto Rican or Brazilian or something, especially since I'm bald. But what I wanted to point out here before I move on is in one half of myself over the other half. I don't really like to look at myself in halves. And me and, Hybrid Vigor, this is something we definitely agree on, spot on. We agree on a lot of things, but I think this is kind of one of these central core pillars to my philosophy, that being the mulatto, it means you're one, right? You're the fusion between the European and African. You're not split between two sides, split between the white and the black. You combine them and find balance with both of those and being one being. So that's kind of how I like to present myself, is being balanced and being one, being whole mulatto, not split. That's why biracial is not an appropriate term for me. It's the most common in the United States of America, but mulatto is a specific. So I like to look at myself as being one. So getting into this lady here says the mother of all demographic surveys, the U.S. Census began allowing Americans to report more than one race only in 2000. Since then, however, the number of people ticking multiple boxes has risen dramatically. Today, mixed race marriages are at a high, and the number of multiracial Americans is growing 3 times as fast as the population as a whole. According to the new Pew Research Center, although multiracial people account for only an estimated 7% of America's population, only 7%, only. That's literally, tenth of the nation. I mean, in the next few years. But the thing is they throw us in a box that it's not mulatto specific, right? That's what we have to strive for. Americans say their numbers are expected to soar to 20%, right? In the next, 25 years. Yeah, by 2050, for sure. Now, this lady here, uh, half black and half indigenous in Panama, first realized she was unusual at the age of 9 when a boy drew a picture of her showing a box of freckles as her head. She ran home and told her mom, "Well, do you look different?" Yeah, let me, how do you do that? Because I saw her and I was looking at her. Yeah, it looks like you have some African, but something else as well. So indigenous, right? Would this fall under the criteria as mulatto? Because mulatto is European African, right? So, like, can trace my lineage from my family, right? From my mother's side, it's German, right, and French Canadian, and then my father's side is West African. FBA, my lineage is from slavery, but prior to slavery, there's a lot of conspiracy theories with these pro-wax. They'll say that they're the original Americans. They're not really from Africa. I'm not going to get into that right now. I know that my descendants, the bloodline from uh, my family here is from West Africa, but I'm not going to get into all the pro-wax Aboriginal stuff. But let me continue on. This population growth corresponds to an uptick in research about multiracials. Much of it focused on the benefits of being more than one race. Studies show that multiracial people, yeah, which is anything, right? Anything. Doesn't mean anything. Tend to be perceived as more attractive than their monoracial peers. Among other advantages, and even some of the challenges of being multiracial, like having to navigate racial identities situationally, might make multiracial people more adaptable, creative, and open-minded than those who tick a single box, psychologists and sociologists say. But of course, there is no sources cited for that. Of course, this is all just basically conjecture, right? At this point, of course, there are also challenges that don't come with a silver lining. Discrimination, for one, is still pervasive. For another, many mixed race people describe struggling to develop a clear sense of identity, and some trace it to the trouble other people have in discerning their identity. In a recent Pew survey, 1 in 5 multiracial adults reported feeling pressure to claim just a single race, while nearly 1 in 4 said other people are sometimes confused about, quote, what they are. By not fitting neatly into one category, however, researchers say the growing number of multiracial Americans may help the rest of the population develop the flexibility to see people as more than just a demographic and to move away from race as a central marker of identity. That is really what this lady I share with you, Jennifer Latson, monoracial Caucasian lady. This is essentially what the whole goal is like. And you look, and to move away from race is a central marker of identity. And this is a white lady doing that. So you're going to have a lot of your white nationalists. They're going to blame the Jews, right? They're going to blame everybody, right? Um, for their issues. Then they have their own people who are pushing this type of stuff. Because of course it says here may reshape how all Americans, not some, but all Americans perceive race. That's like a progressive, utopian kind of view of things, right? How all Americans perceive race. And she's saying that because of us, multiracial people, that it will basically move away from race as essential marker of identity. Good luck with that. Let's see how that works out. So I'm going to continue on. It says Hidden Figures. In 2005, Heidi Durrell was struggling to find a publisher for her novel about a girl who, like her, had a Danish mom and an African American dad. At the time, no one seemed to think there was much of an audience for the biracial coming of age tale. 3 years later, when Barack Obama was campaigning for president and the word biracial seemed to be everywhere, the literary landscape shifted. Durrell's book, The Girl Who Fell from the Sky, came out in 2010 and quickly became a bestseller. How did an immense multiracial relationship manage to fly under the publishing world's radar? The same way it's remained largely invisible since America was founded. Multiracial people simply weren't talking about being multiracial until now, right? But of course, I add the layer of specificity here with mulatto, right? I know a lot of people aren't, it's not attractive, I guess, to a lot of people. People view it as being archaic, kind of outdated, but well, you're gonna have to deal with it now until I see somebody else come up with something better. But when I'm looking at everyone, I mean, I look what's out there. I'm not impressed. So of course, I'm not going to sit there and just complain all day about what these other people are doing. I'm going to do something. And of course, they're not going to like my tone, my delivery, my level of assertiveness. So then they're going to complain about me. Keep complaining because I'm only going to get louder and larger, right? Where'd I leave off? The same way it's remained largely invisible since America was founded, multiracial people simply weren't talking about being multiracial right until now, till today. There's a long forgotten history of mixed race people having achieved great things, right? Like Chevalier, because they want to blackwash literally all of our historical icons. There's a massive campaign, international, I might add, because I have some of my Brazilian contacts. They're going through similar situation down there as well. And of course, I'm going to get more into that in the future as this thing grows. So, um, but they have to choose one race over the other. They weren't identified as multiracial, Duro says. Obama made a difference because he talked about it openly and in the mainstream, exactly. And his wife, I publicly identified him as a biracial man. And I think even for kind of to solidify that statement, I think I can actually pull up the clip if I can do it in a portrait unveiling in a timely manner. Yeah, I can pull up that clip to share with you guys, give you guys some kind of perfect example of that. So I have the clip right here. Let me bring it up for you guys because Michelle Obama publicly acknowledged that her husband, the first biracial president, mulatto president, was in fact biracial. So let me bring it up right here. Apologize, you guys, for the kind of slow segue, but I got it right here. So, of course, with all things, fair use, fair use.
Isn't about me or Barack. It's not even about these beautiful paintings. It's about telling that fuller story. Operator and a stay-at-home mom. A portrait of a biracial kid with an unusual name.
She says it's a portrait unveiling at the White House, right? This is last year. So this is obviously during Joe Biden's term, so Democrat White House. And yeah, she identified her husband as a biracial kid with an unusual name, meaning Barack Obama. Let me play it again for you guys, and I'm going to continue on with what we were talking about.
But I've always wondered, where does that supposed to come from? Who determines it? And too often in this country, people feel like they have to look a certain way or act a certain way to fit in, that they have to make a lot of money or come from a certain group or class or faith in order to matter. Uh, but what we're looking at today, a portrait of a biracial kid with an unusual name
So when I saw that, it really stuck out for me.
and the daughter of a
You know, hear
water
see
pump
the closed
operator
caption
and a
here.
stay at home mom.
Closed caption. There we
What
go.
we are
We got the closed caption on the screen here. So you know I'm not just making this up, right? This is, facts. What we're looking at today is a portrait of a biracial kid with an unusual name. So that's your first mulatto president. It's not black. Didn't say a black kid with an unusual name. She said biracial, right? So I just want to get that out of the way um, before I move on, because I mean, we got to just, speak clear English and let people know what to deal with. So let me get some of these comments. Shout out to you guys. Got Sharp in the house. Of course, Sharp says the "what are you" question hurts because we don't have an identity and gives opportunities for others to tell us who we are. Yeah, the main issue is what you're seeing right now is where people want to kind of put you in a box and tell you who you are. And when you tell them, no, I'm not like you, I'm different. I was raised different, culture different, socially, then they have an issue with that, right? Then they're going to fight back. Well, you're just embracing white supremacy. You just don't want to embrace your black side. I mean, you can kiss my Oreo flavored ass then if that's the case. Because you're going to have to fight for what's yours and your identity. People aren't going to give it to you. They're going to want to use you, right? And if you let them, but publicly, I wouldn't go around and say, well, we don't have an identity. We're in the process of identity formation, forming a culture. It's not looking good as far as some of these online spaces. That's why we kind of have to, you know, select certain people to build with and navigate and move around and stay away from the troublemakers, the trolls. Like you have the golden troll. We all know who that drunk idiot is. You gotta just do your move around, right? But I would say we do have an identity, and we're in the like I said, we're in the process of developing that. Of course, we have to establish something and pass it down. That's why coupling and grouping with each other is essential. And then, of course, hybrids in the house. Shout out to hybrid. Just had a stream with, of course, your simp enforcers over there who just follow the women. It's very sad and pathetic. Um, but it's more common than you think, right? Because you look at some of it's like I said, with black men, okay, there's a reason why they're at the bottom of society in America because they follow the women, right? They follow the women where no other man does that in America. Because if you just look at the manosphere dynamics, um, the white manosphere, the women don't have a voice, right? It's not even called the white manosphere. It's just called manosphere or red pill. That's the funny part. They don't have to put any color above it. They just let you know this is ours, the manosphere, red pill. It's only with blacks. They go, what is the black manosphere? We're the cool kids. We're everyone's, entertained by you. That's been your position in this nation for centuries. You're here to entertain everybody. So yeah, you're doing a good job. But yeah, they call it the black manosphere. The thing I noticed is that they literally give women the microphone. The same women they cry and complain about, they give them the microphone, and the women took it over. They're having a big coup, you could call a takeover in the manosphere, black manosphere spaces, right? Where you literally have pro-black women which they were mad because of just pearly things. I don't want to derail the whole conversation today. The main thing subject, what I'm talking about, but it's just because Hybrid covered something with some of the simp enforcers who are black identified or just some random geezer who's senile. They follow under the women. And it's pretty sad and treacherous to see, to be honest with you. But they're not over here. I don't want them over here, so they can stay with the drunk baby mamas and have fun. But of course, Hybrid says here we're not allowed to have our own group. Nobody's going to tell me we can't. But we're going, that's the thing. I'm here to basically establish that it's not easy. And yeah, they'll do everything they can to silence you, to defame you, etc. Um, yeah, but I'm still gonna fight. Mulattoes have a duty while everyone else gets to lay back. Apparently, yeah. Well, especially in a community, like I said, they can all smoke blunts and play Xbox and chase light skinned women, but you You got to do all the heavy lifting. You got to be the first one out there marching for fake acceptance, I might add. We're not allowed to have an idea. There you say that again. Publicly, would stress to not say that. To have an identity, have to play a role in racial assimilation, intersectionality. Yeah, if you let them, and a lot of the women do that. So I will publicly say that. I see that on Instagram and TikTok and these other places. That's why they push that. We're all just the same, especially the hyenas too, right? The baby mamas, they push, we're all the same, we're all just mixed and blah blah blah. And yeah, that's because they don't want us to have a group, right? They want us to serve everyone else. Or they want to be on top. They want us to serve them, especially the fat hyenas, like, multifacial. The white manosphere is such a threat that it's in the news. Canada and the UK wants to ban them. The black manosphere is only, yeah, the black manosphere is only entertainment. It's so obvious. Everyone knows you can't take most of those jokers seriously. That's why they got big chat rooms. You got a guy who's got like 4K subscribers, but he has a live stream. He's got like 800 plus people in his chat. It's entertainment. That's their position in this nation for centuries. They're here to entertain us. And nobody takes them seriously. They give women power over them, and then they cry and complain about the system and white supremacy when they literally give women power above them. They give them a voice. Because I don't see that in those other manosphere spaces. The women have their own thing. They do their femininity coaching, whatever. But the men, they consult with other men. I've been observing this stuff for a couple years. I don't want to get off track too much. They have content for survival, construction, Y2K situations. Yeah, preppers, correct. Yeah, farming, finances. Yeah. Yeah. Let me go back to the article, guys. So Obama made a difference because, like I said, he was mainstream biraciality, but his wife identified him as being biracial, right? So in this guy right here, it says Tony Baker Jr., Brooklyn College, physical education major, can throw, kick, and dribble a ball while doing whirlings. What is that? Whirl gigs? I don't know what that is. Around your head. He's confident on the field of court. He's also grounded in who he is. He identifies as black, but he knows his Korean eyes ancestry. It's funny when he says he identifies as black. I'm like, shocker. What's the first indicator that this guy identifies as black when he clearly looks Asian? Blasian gentleman here, you know, respect to the Blasians. But this cat right here has a gold chain. It's like, oh, he identifies as black. Yeah, no shit. Look what he's wearing. He's got a gold chain, right? He's got to look fresh. You got to look fresh, right? So that's very stereotypical, right? When Duro is a different individual compared to this gentleman. That's Baker, Tony Baker. So we're gonna get into that. But when Darrell's father was growing up in the 40s and 50s, race relations were such that he felt that best bet for African American man was to get out of the country altogether. Damn. He joined the Air Force and requested a post in Germany. Yeah, and the thing is, like, I have J4 conversations, AJ, the moderator, who is black identified. He's a mulatto man. And I think he was like a military brat. I think his father was in the military, so he traveled around the world. And but he basically, there was no pathway to a mulatto-ness because there weren't enough numbers, right? At that time, there were a lot of mulattoes, right? Obviously, there's always been in this country since the inception of this nation. But with the 1924 Racial Integrity Acts, you see within the early 1920s, all the way up until when J4 was born, 1970, I believe, the year. Apologize if I got it off by a year or two, but the most of the mulatto group has essentially been reabsorbed into the African American population, right? So for that, most of them grow up black identified. You got guys whiter than me, you know, and we got dudes up here like looking like Rock Newman 2.0, talking all blackety black and all that, they black and all that. And yeah, it's just the identity thing. So, but the thing is, at that time, there's no pathway to mulatto-ness, right? To recognize yourself fully. And today, what I want to make the comparison is today we have that choice, right? Especially with the internet, when it's so easily accessible to look up information, right? To have a source, to it's and to connect with people, I think is the major component. I can talk to in this microphone, you guys can hear me. Other people listen to my voice and they email me, they send me links. They're like, "Did you know about this? Check this out." So we're connecting with one another around the world. And I think in today, this is an extremely beneficial tool for us to accomplish a lot of things because of that. Where back in the 70s, the 80s, they didn't have this type of technology and information wasn't transferred that rate at the rate that it is today. So we have a lot of advantages. This is something that I see we can have our own community, our own group if we so choose to. It's not going to be given to us because we have people like this lady who's wrote this article a couple years ago. She wants to throw us all in the same. We're all just multiracial and we're all just biracial and we're all just, mixed race, but there's no specificity. Of course, we have a mission. Even Obama, I'll share in the future, he publicly was like, we should be used to bridge people together. And there's a lot of mulatto people who grow up embracing that kind of mission to kind of bridge the gap between other groups, to not even be their own person, not even be their own people, essentially to be raceless. They're just here to serve and other groups. And that's what this lady's trying to frame the discussion. But she's being very innocuous and very liberal, kind of progressive friendly about it. But it's essentially kind of the same position for us to be used and utilized, not recognized as our own autonomous group. So when they married in 1965, they did so in Denmark. Interracial marriage was still illegal in the U.S. In much of the U.S. Yeah, most of the states. 65. Yeah, for sure. Durham grew up in a nebulous understanding of her own identity. During her childhood, her father never told her he was black. She knew his skin was brown and his facial features were different from her mother's, but that didn't carry a specific meaning for her. Neither he nor her mother talked about race. It wasn't until Dara was 11 and her family moved to the US that the significance of a race in America became clear to her. When people asked, "What are you?" I wanted to say, "I'm American," because that's what we said overseas, she recalls. But what they wanted to know was, "Are you black or are you white? What are you?" If they have to ask, right? They have to ask, then you kind of know. Unlike at the diverse Air Force base in Europe, race seemed to be the most salient part of identity in the US. In Portland, I suddenly recognized that the color of your skin has something to do with who you are, she says. The color of my eyes and color of my skin were a bigger deal than the fact that I read a lot of books and I was good at spelling. Yeah, it wasn't merit based is what you're saying at that time. And that's what we find today in many cases. Like I said, the brown paper bag test is upheld in black society by black people. It's not white people who hold that standard today, right? That's why a lot of mixed race mulatto people are moving to the side like, fuck this shit. I got to create my own, because it's not merit based. It's not about being a good individual with a lot of people, not just white people historically, because they always want to put the blame on them. But we see even with the black society today, it's not merit based. That's why all your drug dealers, your pookies, your thugs are all the heroes, like Da Baby, all your rappers, like this other ghetto piece of shit, Meg the Stallion. Why all the ghetto queens, they love her, shaking her butt, rapping about how tough she is, fighting dudes, fighting niggas, and all this stuff. That's why those people are celebrated. Okay. All the crooks, criminals, and savages, those are all the heroes in the community. But if you can read a book, you can spell, you can articulate yourself like a normal English speaking American, you're ostracized, you're pushed out, right? It's not merit based. And that's what I wanted to point out because we look at it historically, they want to put all the blame on white society. But no, it's a lot of these Negroes who are basically judging your ass on the color of your skin. And, you heard Angry Man in the Manosphere guy. He basically said recently he had a broadcast where he was talking about that, where someone was like, "Oh, you sound like you light skin." They say stuff like that. People have told me that because I don't entertain a lot of these people, especially people lower than me. I'm not going to if you're not going to entertain me or, I'm not going to sit there and entertain you unless I'm getting paid. Like, why am I even here? Um, but that's his audience, right? Those are the people who super chat him. So sometimes they give him lip. And yeah, someone who made a comment about you sound light skinned. Like, what does that mean, right? You sound light skinned. They're basing his being off his skin tone, where skin means something more than what you're saying. You're good at spelling, you can do math, you can read. That's what I'm telling you. We only historically hear it from white society. We hear most people, a lot of people in America, not most, a lot of people in America frame white society as judging you based on your skin. But what I'm here to tell you, Mulatto Vanguard's here to tell you today, April 17th, 2023, that the black community, okay, and I need to make the distinction that I'm talking about the African American ADOS FBA community are some of the major people pushing the brown paper bag test. Well, they'll judge you based on your skin color. Well, I can't trust you. You're a half breed. I don't trust you. You speak English. You sound like you're too comfortable with white people. You see that? Nobody questions them and their logic for that, right? But when white people do the same thing to them, they want to whine and cry. Let me move on because, I could get into that a lot more. This is another lady, beautiful lady, Hapa, obviously, like quintessential. I don't want to misspeak. Half Japanese, half Iranian. Okay, so it's yeah, Iranian is typically Iran is supposed to be land of the Aryan. I think etymologically that's what the term Iran comes from, land of the Aryan, the peoples of the Caucasus Mountains. So, some of them have browner skin. I grew up in Southern California. They have a large Persian, demographic there. So in Iran, the Persian people, some of them are very darker brown, darker than me. And then some of them look more Caucasian, right? With blue or green eyes, blonde hair. So it's an interesting place. I've never been there, but obviously I've conversed and talked with a lot of Iranian slash Persian people. But that's her mixture is Japanese. I can definitely see the Japanese. Yeah, her facial symmetry is it looks good. So yeah, but like I said, we're not she's not a mulatto. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys in a nice way, respectful way. I can acknowledge her as very beautiful, obviously, but we're not the same group. Does that make sense, guys? I know some people don't want to hear that. We're all human beings. Yeah, of course we are. We all deserve health care as a human right, dignity, but we should be judged merit based on our work as well. And a lot of people like her, they outperform a lot of mulattoes. So let's just be clear, a lot of Hoppas, as far as you look at the mixed race categories, they outperform a lot of mulattoes because a lot of mulattoes they want to act black, and in order to do that, they got to kind of put themselves down a few points. Or if they get advantages, they're going to use all their advantages to help black society, which mulattoes have done in America throughout history. You think of Frederick Douglass, Barack Obama, W. Du Bois, all these other mulatto people, Thurgood Marshall, Charles Drew, Adam Clayton Powell. The list goes on and on. It's a large list. So they use their expertise, their proximity to whiteness and the wealth they can get, and they give it back to the community. But that's what's created a lot of distrust and fear and mulattophobia being presented to us from white society because they've seen historically how a lot of mulatto people have took their knowledge and skills or the wealth they've acquired from whites and they've given it to blacks to help them to level the playing field. So that utilitarian position, I'm telling you guys, eventually you want to be your own autonomous group. You don't want to serve others, serve yourself, and then your, of course, your future children. Let me get back into this. And since the rules seem to dictate that you could only one race, you can only pick one race. Duro chose the one other people were most likely to see as her as black. It was unsettling because I felt as if I was erasing a big part of my identity, being Danish. But people thought I should say I was black, so I did, but I was trying to figure out what that meant. She knew that a few other kids in her class were mixed, and while she felt connected to them, she respected their silence on the subject. They were, she came to realize, compelling reasons to identify as black and only black. The legacy of America's one drop rule, the idea that anyone with any black ancestry was considered black, lingered. So did the trope of tragic mulatto, damaged and doomed to fit into neither world. Well, what if you choose your own world, right? Because you have a situation happening right now with Jessica X, right? and she's in the part of the black manosphere, you know. And basically another person, because they're competing for market share. So you have a monoracial black woman named an ex stripper, ex prostitute, Six the Goddess, right? There's that narcissism. Whenever you see a woman calling herself a goddess, I mean, there's always going to be simps. And we see in the mixed race sector, we see the simps like AMR following his little goddess. So similar things in the black manosphere. You got the pro wax over there. They're following Six the Goddess, right? And Jessica X is a mulatto woman. She had a white mother, black father. She's over in London, the UK, and they're competing for market share. And what the thing is, I'm saying is that Six the Goddess basically told Jessica X that, well, you don't fit in anywhere. That's what that's, when you're in their spaces, navigating with them and trying to compete for market share, that's what's going to happen. You're going to be outgrouped at their convenience. When you form your own group, you have your own identity, you solidify your own culture, and you police it, you set up rules, you have parameters, then they're looked at as an outgroup, an enemy outgroup. They can't come into what you're doing and try to enforce any policy. They can't outgroup you. I already have my own shit going on over here. You can come over here, I'll entertain you, but you're gonna know your place. Just like if I go over to your spaces, I'm gonna know my place over there, right? And that's something I think a lot of mulatto people, they haven't realized that yet. And that's what we call having your biracial wake up call, right? Or mulatto wake up call, if you will, being outgrouped and figured out, well, I don't fit in over there and I don't fit in there. So what do I do? Well, you got to start somewhere. So shit, better sooner than later. I started taking jujitsu classes when I was 24, I think 25, 24. And I was telling my coach, my sensei, right? I was like, man, because there were kids in there who started when they were like 10 years old, some younger. But there was a few students who started when they were like 12, 11 years old, and they were already way more advanced. And here I was, a 24-year-old, and this guy who's like couple years younger than me, he was doing jujitsu for years while I was screwing around in high school, whatever. I wasn't, on the jujitsu mats. And I told that to my coach, my sensei. I was basically like, man, I wish I would have started earlier, man. I feel like these guys, they got a bunch of years ahead of me. But he told me, oh yeah, better sooner than later. And I agreed. I was like, you're right. You're right. Because there were some guys in there who were like 40 years old who are barely taking jiu-jitsu classes for the first time. Imagine that. And he pointed it out to me. I was like, yeah, you're right. That made me feel better. That there's guys who are like 40 plus who wanted to do jiu-jitsu. Here I was 24 years old, but then there were guys who started when they were kids. They were 12. And I was like, yeah, I'm in a pretty good place, better sooner than later. But the bigger the head start is always going to be the best. So it's definitely an honor, privilege to be here, chopping up with you guys. I see some of your guys' chat, so I'm going to get into some of this stuff right here. Shout out to you guys. This is pick me white woman content. Yeah, this is a white lady who wrote this crap. And of course, she wants to throw us all in the same box when she knows damn well that we're not all the same, and that people who are mulatto historically in a nation, there's been a lot of fear of us getting power and becoming a larger group. And there's always been a fear of us in this country. We're not the same as someone who is Hispanic and white, because there's a lot of, look, and I have some audience members who are, I've always had friends who were that mixture, biracial, Hispanic and white. From California, it's very common. So what I'm saying is that there's a difference. I feel like personally, I'm not saying I'm more of a victim, but there's a difference, right? I feel like there's people fear me, my presence from at a biological level, right? Genetic level more than someone who is like half Mexican, half white, or someone who is a Hapa who's half Asian, half white. I feel like mulatto is there's a very uniqueness to it. Not saying I'm more a victim, saying the challenges are extremely unique. That's the best way I can put it. At a later time, I'll be able to articulate myself more kind of formally for you guys. So shout out to DC. Appreciate you being here. Been supporting a lot. I always appreciate the information that you share as well. So it says here, I once met a Ghanaian man at a gas station. He thought I was Native American. He said I had my mom's skin tone And I said, I have a white mom and black dad. Interesting. Um, I would love to experience Ghana and see what Africans think of my appearance. Yeah, they'll like you. Yeah, because I have firsthand knowledge. I've been to Ghana, and the people are very nice. Probably some of the nicest people in the world from so far, from places I've traveled to, which hasn't been a lot. I actually plan on traveling a lot more. But yeah, they're known for being having a lot of hospitality and being very nice Ghanaian people. So yeah, they will like you. A lot of them because they'll think, obviously lighter skin, they'll think you have more wealth, more money. So they'll try to befriend you. So, it's in their best interest to befriend you because then that could be more resources coming their way. And they all have social media. They all have Facebook, internet connection, and Instagram accounts. So I have a lot of contacts, from Ghana. But when I was over there, it's crazy. A lot of people are pretty, I don't want to say aggressive, but they're very prompt when it comes to like selling you something. There's a lot of merchants, people trying to sell you masks, dashiki, stuff like that. So the fact that you're lighter skin or mulatto, yeah, they're definitely gonna like you, right? They're gonna want to befriend you because that's I guess you could say a meal ticket per se, but they're just generally nice people, from my experience. Let me go here. Shout out to Sharp, bridging the gap. We're the door receptionist of this country. Exactly. That's, Obama phrased that, but there's been other mulattoes too. I'm not going to name names, but they're more liberal, social justice warrior leaning. And when they talk about bridging the gap, I thought about this the other day, and it was like the whole position of bridging the gap is they want us to uplift blacks to be closer to whites, and then they want us to bring whites down. So it's a vertical situation, right? It's a vertical dilemma. It's not horizontal. This gap they're talking about, it's where one group is up, one group is down. Obviously, white will be up, black is down. So this mulatto in the middle, the social justice warrior ones, they're looking at it through a vertical lens. And most of it is, yeah, they want to bring blacks up, right? You give them all the resources and help them out, bring them up, and of course, bring whites down. That's sad. I'm not trying to do that. There's a lot of mulattoes who want to do that, man. It's sad. I talk to them, and it's like, I like you, you know, but I'm just not with the that your political stance. I can't. We need to bridge ourselves to our own economy, legislation, schools, and businesses of our own. Exactly. Yeah, that's why I think me and you click. We're on the same page there. Of course, the color of your skin matters. Common sense. Of course, here you put it's funny how hood rat Shikari is more accepted in Sydney, who broke the world record 3 times this year, her own. Yet Shikari can live off. Exactly. Thank you for mentioning that. I'm telling you, that is the black society in America 2023. You're judged on the color of your skin and how ratchet and hood you are. That's your past. And a lot of mulattoes fall for that. You could look at the multiracial hood booger. Her life sucks. She's miserable. She's a hood rat baby mama struggling. She's got to beg for cash apps on YouTube. Instead of getting a normal job like everyone else, get 2 jobs like a normal person, she's got to go on YouTube and beg for cash apps, right? Her life sucks. And that's because she falls into that paradigm where she's got to act all hood, act all ghetto like an idiot to try to be cool with all the blacks, get a good black audience, and yeah, have fun. And that's exactly what you said. That's exactly correct. Shikari is another idiot I remember. Yeah. Shakari Richards, right? Oh yeah, and the community loves her. Like I said, because I use the men as an example. You look at the baby, you look at Future. The baby is the best example, right? That that archetype is the hero in blacks, and you wonder why they're beneath everyone else. They can blame white supremacy, blame the mulattoes, they can blame, everybody. But look at the value system. Look at who they uplift and praise as being the real ones, right? But if you speak English, can articulate yourself, you understand mathematics, or you a square, you a lame, you ain't cool. I see it in the manosphere spaces. All the pro-wax, because the pro-wax, they protect the thugs and the criminals, like Tariq Fraud who's a former hustler, criminal guy. They protect those people. And they just blame white people. They're going to be doing it for the next 100 years. Their ass is still going to be at the bottom because all these other groups, Asians, Hoppas, everyone else, they're going to far exceed with institutional strength and power, and they're just here to dance and entertain for us. Okay, you go to their channels on YouTube, not all of them, but A lot of these, the manosphere ones, specifically, it's just entertainment. Pookie, I'm not comfortable. Pookie's quote, I'm not comfortable with half breeds unless they're women. Yeah. Also, Pookie, I need a bluish lawyer and accountant on deck. Yeah. Oh, I don't take Pookie's only here to entertain me or make me money. So that's Pookie's purpose for me, as far as I'm concerned. Being black, however, also meant being surrounded by a strong, supportive community. Interesting. So she's talking about decades ago. This is Duro's right here analysis. And when she was a schoolgirl, and I hear that similar trope with AJ the moderator, J4 Conversations, who's in his 50s. So he talked about growing up in the 70s, right? And kind of 80s era. So I'm guessing Duro's around the same age range for sure. Where to them, they looked at being black, there was more of a community structure. Because like I'm talking to you guys now, I'm a millennial. We're talking to you now, it's 2023. We laugh publicly. Even black people call it the communita. The men and then the women will call it Blackistan. Here in America, people laugh because of the lack of community, the lack of moral values. And it can be a dangerous place for you if you're a mulatto. And that's what we just mentioned, kind of the people, they're icons. A lot of them, they're heroes, especially the young people, not the older. Okay, I'm going to get into demographics here. I'm not talking about the older black civilized people who go to church, law-abiding people, etc. I'm laying out the distinctions. Talk about the younger generation who their parents failed them, right? A lot of them, the ones who they're if you're heroes or one of these rappers, these hip hop guys or Shakari Richards, yeah, your parents failed you. Okay. Yeah, Shakari Richards, right? Yeah, her and the baby, that's it. They got fans. Nicki Minaj or Greg the Stallion. You go on their Instagram, they got thousands of, followers. Some of them got millions of followers. That's the value system they got there. But it's the white man's fault, man. So continuing on, the discrimination and disenfranchisement that had driven Duro's father out of the US had brought other African Americans closer together in the struggle for justice and equality. It sounds like some civil rights stuff. Yeah. There has also been solidarity among blacks to advance our rights for ourselves, Duro says. You have to think this in terms of racial identity. That means something to the collective, to a community. Now, this is interesting because this is extremely congruent with, like I said, I'll say it again, AJ the moderator, J4 the conversations, because his position is exactly the same when he talks about his kind of upbringing, childhood, his experience, his pathway to blackness, why he was so adamant on being black identified and finding his way, his pathway in that community is because of this. He looked at it as this purpose, right? Advanced in rights in the community, that sense. But it's just a generational nuance. When me and him go back and forth, we talk, we always bring up the generational nuance, man. I'm telling you, he's a millennial. For me, a millennial, 2023, talking to you, I don't see it now, man. Though the community has been is a dangerous place for a lot of mulatto people. We're sitting there like, shit. Yeah, good luck, have fun. You want to fix it, but today Darrow still considers herself entirely African American, and she's a half Danish woman, right? But she also thinks of herself as entirely Danish, calling herself a 50-50 mix. She says would imply that her identity is split down the middle. I'm not interested in mixed race identity in terms of percentages, she explains. I don't feel like a lesser Dane or a lesser African American. I don't want to feel like I'm a person made of pieces. Now I'm with you on that as well. That's why I choose this mulatto-ness, this wholeness, being one, right? There's power to that. That means you're fortified. It's harder to break you. When you're already split down the middle, they can easily split you in half and push you to this side and that side. That's the purpose. That's why they prefer you to use terms like biracial. I had a post on my Facebook page where I identified a lady as mulatta. I don't know if it was Holly Berry or someone else. And it was a black guy who came in arguing, don't say that. That's a bad word. It means mule. The correct term is biracial. I didn't go back and forth with this guy, but I think I put a comment, but then I ended up just leaving it there and moving on because I've already had this conversation plenty of times, but I'll have it to you now, the public. But yeah, the whole idea is it's mostly black people who don't want you to say mulatto because they know you're one. You're literally on the United States Census calculated as one group. With biracial, it's not a solidified identity. It's literally indicating two races, two races split between the two. And they like that. They want you in that position so they can, like I said, this situation with the biracial wake up call with Jessica X and Six the Goddess. Because the first thing when you're competing with them for market share or for influence in society, they're gonna kick you, outgroup you, right? Oh, you just a mutt, you ain't black, you half breed, right? So they'll kick you out of their group. And then you might not, because you've been caping for them, you're so black identified, caping for blacks all this time. Whites aren't going to really be, trustworthy of you, right? And they know that. So you're stuck in a pickle in that situation. You're like, well, what? You have no group to go to. They like you in that position, stuck between the two. You have no group to go to. See, once you're mulatto, you embrace the wholeness of being one. You have found your group. And the group might be small for sure, but it's growing. And the beautiful thing about it is it's international. That's what the beauty of this technology, this internet. You start to converse and talk with people behind the scenes, people who speak other languages, but you can still translate text, etc. You start to realize that this is a pretty massive world with a lot of people who have similar experiences and viewpoints as you. So you're not as small. It's not as small as you might think it is now. But of course, based on the growth trajectory, the numbers are only increasing. They're not decreasing. I don't see it decreasing anytime soon. So that's an important part I always want to highlight. Like I said, I didn't want to go back and forth with the guy on Facebook, but kind of adding some context here now. But the whole idea why biracial is not the most appropriate term, it's innocuous to some people, but it indicates this split, and then people can use that against you to serve them. When you're mulatto, they can't take that away from you. That's why they're going to try to argue you. I have it all the time. The only people, I don't have white people arguing. It's only black people, right? And then also LGBT mulatto people who want to serve, black LGBT people. Because there's kind of a hierarchy with intersectionality, right? The darker skinned people, of course, they got to be women. They got to be LGBT, and they got to be overweight. They got to be broke. That's the criteria with intersectionality. You have all these, variables that you use for victimhood leverage, right? At the top of the intersectional period is going to be a fat black lesbian woman, right? And you look at the leaders of BLM, right? And that's what you have. So the mixed race ones, they're serving the darker ones. And I did a video about that a couple well, you saw what happened to Tabia Lee. Remember Tabia Lee was working at the community college? I did a stream about it a month ago. They told her she wasn't the right kind of black, and the BLM got her fired or something. It was a Elisa Garza of the BLM who's married to a white woman or a white man, a white woman. Yeah, they're lesbian women. That's why I call them Black Lesbians Matter, BLM. And Talia Lee is a mixed race woman, right? Probably obviously more so black identified, but she wasn't the right kind of black, right? So that's that intersectionality pyramid. So that's her, Talia Lee. What other example do I have? I just thought of it, but it slipped my mind because my mind's kind of racing, trying to finish this article for you guys, but also throw in some of these nuggets. Yeah, it might come back to me, but I just did that stream of Talia Lee. So she's mixed. Oh no, okay. What it was, I did another stream where I reviewed this clip, but these were Canadian people and they were kind of homosexual, intersectionality. They were mulatto. And it was one lady who basically was like, oh, I got to give my position. If I get this position because I'm biracial, that's not fair. Because she was very light skinned. And she was like, well, I got to give my position to a black queer woman. I don't know if you guys remember that. Maybe Hybrid remembers that if he, watched the stream. Well, I know Hybrid probably remembers that, but some of the other guys in the audience, if you remember that, I'll put it in the comment section when I'm done with this stream for reference, and I'll timestamp this as well, so you guys can go back and look at the clip to what I'm referring to. But this was a LGBT mulatto woman who basically was like, "Well, I'm advantaged. She's advantaged because she has lighter skin. So in her eyes, a darker skin black lesbian woman is more disadvantaged. So she doesn't want to take a position from her." That's that pyramid structure of intersectionality LGBT. Like I told you. Fat black lesbian women are at the top of that pyramid. That is, damn, that pyramid's gonna topple over, man. Depending on how many more crab legs they eat, chicken wings and crab legs, that pyramid is not gonna be sturdy because that doesn't make any damn sense. It's literally based on your looks, your orientation. That's, who gets to rule shit. It's funny how they want to talk about progressing into the future, but they still go by these old world paradigms, right? Okay, continuing on. She's always longed for a sense of community with other multiracial people. We got one here, and we got to kind of vet people and sort out because we got some, knuckleheads as well, who want to pretend they're a part of the community just to profit off of us, right? They want to use some people say pain and suffering. I'm not suffering, middle class American. And the only pain I have, I like pain when I'm working out, when you get muscle pain, you're sore, and then your muscles, they regenerate, they heal, you get stronger. So I embrace the kind of pain as far as physical fitness, but emotional pain, no, not so much. I use exercise and fitness to counteract that in music. But they'll use our current dilemma trying to form a group, and they'll manufacture and start battles. This is within mixed race spaces, right? We all know who we're talking about, the golden troll. They'll use our situation. They'll pick fights and put people against each other, mainly men. They'll use cannon fodder, which is some of these men, these simp enforcers, to pick fights with other men, and they'll use it for entertainment. That's their content. And there's people in these spaces, who literally, I know I don't want to keep saying these spaces, but people are talking about you, trying to make content on you. So it's like, well, shit, you got to address it. So there's kind of a close proximity to some of these spaces. The thing is, with me and the other mulattoes like hybrid, we want to, do our own thing with normal people, normal meaning straight, and people who embrace education. We want to surround ourselves with normal people. We don't want random criminals and people who don't have any like aspiration to go to school, to be a functional citizen. Like, is that hard to ask? I mean, I had a stream yesterday. All the people on the panel were college educated people, working adults. Al is a journalist. Hybrid is a philosophy major. I'm a speech and communication major. And Sharp is a military veteran and also engineering background. So, like, these are the people I want to surround myself, people who have skill sets to offer. Let me continue on with this. Apologize, guys. Um, I definitely feel a kinship with other mixed race people. I understand when people don't, she says. I wonder if it's rooted in the fact that they don't know they were allowed to be more than one. It's true that the majority of Americans with a mixed racial background, 61%, according to a 2015 Pew Research, don't identify as multicultural at all. Half of those reports identify as the race they most closely resemble, right? It's still where we are today, 2015. So, what, 8 years ago? We're still pretty much like that today. A lot of people are just way more, especially when I'm talking about mulattoes, way more black identified, right? Um, so they choose one race, right? That's all they know. That's all they ever known. They've been grown in that. They've been enculturated in that way, so socialized, etc. So it's also true that racial identity can change. The majority of multiracial people polled at Pew said that their identity has evolved over the years. About a third had gone from thinking of themselves as multiple races to just one, while a similar number had moved to an opposite direction from a single race to more than one. The new face of flexibility. Now, let me remind you guys, this is a Caucasian woman who wrote the article, and she's selected all of these people. But of course, their main focus is mulatto. They don't specify that, but you can just even look at the text here. Mixed, remixed festival. Then they use Jordan Peele, Black Father. See, and then even the lady Darrell, mulatto, white Danish mother, Black Father. So they use mulatto people, okay, for this kind, their liberal left-wing progressive agenda. They use us because we have the population numbers. There's more of us than our Hoppas. This gentleman here, quintessential Hoppa, like the other lady, I think she was Japanese and Persian. So was this cat here, Max, is Japanese and Russian father, right? Jewish Russian father and Japanese mother, so Hoppa, right? Just like the other cat who has the book Reading Between the Lines. I forgot the dude's name. Um, but he was a white Jewish guy, and he's the same thing, Mike. He's basically trying to throw us into the same group as mixed race, or he calls us interracial people, whatever the hell that means. Um, when there's distinctions, there's differences, right? I respect Hapa people. I've known a lot from California, and we're different groups. Mulattoes and Hapas, we're different. We could connect with each other, I think, basically based on our white Americanness, perhaps, right? Um, but I don't really see any other angle. What kind of binds us or connects us? This mixed raceness, they just make shit up. I've shared with you guys before, they make a term up called mixedness. To me, it kind of sounds like queerness. I don't know. There's no specificity. Some people use the term biraciality, and then of course me, I'll use mulatto-ness. Mulatto-ness embracing the black and white, European and African, being proud of that, not putting one side down over the other. Some people feel like I do. They feel like, you put down black people. I mean, you know, calling out Pookie for being Pookie when even their own society does. But sadly, like I said, there's a generational thing because the younger people embrace Pookie. But the older black people, they are losing influence and power. That's why the church doesn't have as much power today in their community. They can't control what the younger people do. That's why you saw in Chicago over the weekend, I shared on my community post where you had teenagers, hoodlums, who were running over the whole damn, committing crime, lighting cars on fire, assaulting people. These were black teenagers in Chicago. So I'm telling you, and a lot of those people, they have Instagram accounts, Facebook. Who are their heroes? Their heroes are Shaquifa or whatever, Shakari Richards, Da Baby, Future, all the hood boogers, Greg the Stallion. Those are the heroes. Those are who they follow on their social media. So there's a generational thing, right? And th- those people are going to be working for someone else. Okay. They're not going to be the stewards of society or the industry leaders. They're going to be working for someone else. So, or just entertaining everyone else, which they kind of already are. But see, if I call them out, those bad people, oh, you don't like your black side, like how that it doesn't hold weight with me. You can say what you want, but for someone like me who's been to an all black nation like Ghana, who's embraced my African heritage, like it's not really going to work with me. But you can try it. I'll entertain it. Only if you have, viewership and sub count that's worthwhile. If you're just some knucklehead, yapping and you have nothing to offer, I wouldn't really care what your opinion is. But yeah, no, I love the good elements of what black people, African people have to offer. But you're damn right. I'm going to continue to call out Pookie because more people need to. They've been too comfortable, you know, like what they did in Chicago this weekend and they're the main ones hurting their own people. But of course, you can't if you talk about them, oh, you're anti-black or this or that. When they're actually worse, they're the ones doing all the physical damage and harm. You know, you notice that how they're more afraid of you using your voice as a free American citizen, protected by the Constitution, to use your voice. They're more against you than the people actually doing damage. Look at the whole fiasco with Andrew Tate. They're against that man using his free speech, right? They're more against him using his voice than the people actually doing the harm. That's the similar hypocrisy I see. Let me continue on, guys. The new face of flexibility. Because she craved an opportunity to connect with other multiracial Americans, Darrell created the Mixed Remixed Festival in 2014. The comedians Kagan Michael Kay and Jordan Peele, both of whom have a black father and white mother, both mulattoes, Kay and Peele, shout out to them. Funny cats. Um, were named the festival storytellers of the year. Like Darrell's book, their Emmy-winning show Kay and Peele had found an immense audience. They credit the show's network, Comedy Central, for recognizing them as biracial, not just black. Right? We've known that for years since they have emerged on the screen or the scene, I should say, that they are indeed biracial. They're not just black, which is very good. I like that a lot. and giving them a platform to tell that story. The only thing they ever got annoyed about was more biracial stuff. It was never make it blacker. Kay said when the pair accepted their award. The hell is that? Okay. Comedy is something one relates to and discussing their mixed experience. We found a comedy that doesn't speak just to mixed people, but to everybody. Peel said, we wants to kind of appeal to a broader audience, which financially, business wise, makes excellent sense. It's about being in and in between people and being more complex than you are given credit for. As multiracial people become more visible and more vocal in mainstream America, researchers are paying more attention. Now, who are these researchers? As multiracial people become more visible and more vocal in mainstream America, okay, researchers are paying more attention. Who are these researchers and what are they researching? These are sociologists. This lady's, working for psychology today. They want to study us for what reason? Researchers are paying attention. We should be the ones conducting the research, right? And they're finding that being mixed race carries more advantages along with its challenges. This complexity is often both an advantage and a disadvantage, says Sarah Gaither. There she is again, Sarah Gaither. Now, she's Duke University sociologist. I covered her several months back last year. I talked about Sarah Gaither. She's another mulatto woman, definitely white passing. I mean, you wouldn't know she's mulatto unless she told you. It's a black father, white mother. Sarah Gaither, yeah, Duke University psychologist. She's the lady who was so proud that her colleague called her black. You know, yeah, Sarah Gaither, yeah. I feel like I'm going to be talking a lot about her on this channel. Who knows? One day I'll probably end up having an interview with her. We'll see. Being a mix of races can lead to discrimination of different kind than single race minorities face. Since multiracial people can endure stereotype and rejection from multiple racial groups, my research and the work of others argues that there are benefits and costs at the same time, Gather says. So she's one of these researchers. Interesting. Yeah. Sociologist, a social psychologist. Multiracials face the highest rates of exclusion of any group. Definitely true. That's why having our own group is literally the most important thing. People like even AJ, who essentially found his pathway into blackness, who married into blackness, which a lot of mulattoes do, was at asked me, I think, a couple times or one time, what's the whole goal, the whole purpose? And this was when I only had like 200 subs or something, or not that it matters, but this was earlier on, several months ago, and I told him like, I just want my own group. I want my own group. I don't want to be in a situation like what Jessica X currently. She'll be fine, she'll be all right, but to be put in that position where your market, the people who you kind of rely, your viewers, the super chats, where there are other people in that space, because that's the Black Manosphere space, where they're pushing you out, being like, you don't belong over here. See, over here, that will never happen. This is my group. This is my space. And you have your little creepy lesbian kind of, anonymous people like the future is golden who can try their hardest. You shouldn't be on the internet. You shouldn't be here. No, we have our own group to get away from people like you and your little troll buddy, the ghetto grandma. We have our own group over here. Okay. And we're mulatto specific. That's why we gatekeep with the term mulatto. This isn't golden where we just we let everybody in, right? Um, they're never black enough, white enough, Asian enough, Latino enough, right? Right. And that's the key thing is the it says multiracials. Yeah, face the highest rate of exclusion of any other group. Exactly. That's the most important thing. Find your tribe, find your group, and build upon that. And you have to vet people. You want the right people in who are an asset, not a liability. It's surprising then that more people in this group say being multiracial has been an advantage rather than a disadvantage, 19% versus 4%, according to Pew survey. And Gather's research found that those who identify as multiracial instead of just one race report higher self-esteem, greater well-being, and increased social engagement. I mean, would you take me as a case study? Do I seem like I have a pretty high level of self-esteem? greater well-being. Like I said, I'm not a victim, and I feel pretty damn good. So let me continue on. One advantage of embracing, there you go. I read that. What website? I don't want to quote the wrong site, but I've heard that in another like mixed race website publication, this mixedness term. And nobody's really specified what it means, right? And is it in the dictionary? Is it in Webster? I think it's a song. I think Webster. Noun. Excuse me. So I pulled it up. I don't even need to share the screen. I'm just looking at here. It says the quality or state of being mixed. That doesn't mean shit. What the hell does that mean, mixed? That's the whole point, guys. It's not even a word. Like it doesn't mean anything, guys. Does that make sense? I don't know how to further articulate it, but I hear that term with a lot of these type of SJW kind of sociologists, psychologists who work in these fields or researchers studying mixed race identity. So this is Webster, which is one of the obviously the main dictionary sources. It says mixedness, noun, the quality, or state of being mixed. That doesn't mean anything, guys. The quality and the state of being mixed, right? But mixed with what? You got to go into further detail. Yeah. One advantage of embracing mixedness, she says, is the mental flexibility that multiracial people develop when, from a young age, they learn to switch excuse me, seamlessly between their racial identities. In a 2015 study, she found that seems like a lot of work, though, having to switch identities when nobody else has to do that shit. You know, well, I mean, I think some black people will say that when they get around white spaces, they'll speak differently. They code switch to black people. Even white people will as well. If white people who they're never usually in a position where they have to, but for some cases, maybe with work or certain social settings, I've seen it where white people, Caucasian people, even Latino people, if they're around black people, they'll start to kind of talk like black talk, if that makes sense. I've seen it up close. So people in general do that, but I think mulatto people specifically probably are in a position to do that a lot more than other people. Code switch essentially. Um, but it says right here, but switch seamlessly between racial identities. Seems like a lot of work. I don't know. Seems like a lot of work that's unnecessary. All this switching and stuff that takes more energy. In a 2015 study, she found that multiracial people demonstrated higher creative problem solving skills than monoracials, but only after they've been primed to think about their multiple identities beforehand. And then this guy mulatto, you know, I'm just pointing it out. I thought this article was interesting. Because I'm looking at this like interesting. What does this lady have to say? These benefits aren't limited to mixed race people, though people of one race also have multiple social identities. And when reminded of this fact, Gather study, they too perform better on creative tests. We said, you are a student, an athlete, a friend. When you remind them that they belong to a multiple groups, they do better in these tasks. She says, it's just that our default approach in society is to think of a person as a single entity. What gives multiracial people a creative edge may simply be that they have more practice navigating between multiple identities, like a shapeshifter. That's why they've often referred to mixed race mulatto people as chameleons, right? And it's not in a good way, you know. That's why there's a level of distrust, right? Why people don't trust a lot of times they'll say they don't trust you. They'll say the shapeshifter. I've heard that reference too. Who was it? I think it was an African guy. I don't know if it was West African, Nigerian, or Kenyan. I forgot the context, but I saw a comment before on a thread. He was referencing Trevor Noah, who is kind of, he said something against Julius Malema, who's a pro-black, kind of black nationalist in South Africa. Trevor Noah's a mulatto from South Africa, but he's obviously moved to America for his comedy career. And he said something jokingly about Julius Malema, and a lot of the pro blacks didn't like it. But I saw some of the conversations, the back and forth discord, and of course, a lot of your pro wax like, oh, I don't trust the biracials, mulattoes, and all this. And this is a few years ago. And then there was a guy, and he said, I forgot what country he said, but he's on the continent in Africa, and he basically said he used the term chameleon. He's like, oh yeah, he looks at people like Trevor Noah and Barack Obama. He said chameleon. He used that term, a shapeshifter. See, that's not a good context to be referred to that. Shifting, navigating multiple identities. Yeah, I don't feel like it's too much work, and of course, it creates a level of uncertainty, right, with other groups. It's I don't know. You shouldn't have to do that, to be honest with you. I don't see the benefit of that. Just like I said earlier, before I went on this tangent, that you should just be able to just stick to one thing and just be a normal, functional person. People can't fit the video editor Daniel into Daniel Sikar under a box. Why it says, why are you not all the way white? People felt outside imposter, a Bengali tattoo. So or now his woke friends have changed all that to feeling pretty good, blah, blah, blah. So he's Bengali and white, but he's mixed race. He's biracial. He's multiracial. He's everything except mulatto. That's the whole point, guys. When you say mulatto, a lot of people are not going to like it because they're like, well, wait a second. You're not part of our historical group. Um, so I can see how a lot of people are against it because they can feel left out, right? I can see that. Um, what I'd say to that is that there's definitely a space for them to create. I didn't like what I saw when I looked on Instagram, Facebook, even YouTube mainly. There's a lot of information I get is on YouTube. I think it's the best social media. And I didn't like what I saw out here. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. At least as far as the mixed race discussion. I was like, I already know, I don't like what I was seeing. So I decided to create my own group, create my own space. And here we are today. And it's only gonna grow. So I that's my advice to him for someone who kind of feels left out or they're not included per se. It's just, why don't you just start a channel, upload content? People are gonna hear you, they're gonna agree with you, acknowledge you, your presence. They're gonna thank you for what you're doing. And you can connect with people like that. And then voila, poof, you have your group, right? Being around multiracial people can boost creativity and agile thinking for monoracials. Two, according to research by University of Hawaii psychologist Christian Parker, humans are compartmentalizers by nature, and labeling others by social category is part of how we make sense of our interactions, she says. Race is one such category. Humans have historically relied on it to decide whether to categorize someone as in group and out group. Right. And that's what our main dilemma for me is we just got to make sure we can solidify a group. And then, of course, protect the integrity of it. Everything else I feel like will come after. Like we have Sharp in the chat. Shout out to Sharp, where you talk about business and finance. And where do you have here? You said something about the economy, bridging the gap. Yeah, they want us to be door receptionists, right? To serve others, right? But we need to bridge a gap with our own group. Form a group. Of course, we could develop legislation, protections for us, have a code of conduct, integrity, schools. We can share information with each other, educate ourselves, become better skillsmen, better tradeswomen, etc. In economy, we need to exchange resources with each other, do business. Yeah, I mean that's what comes with that with the group for sure. Um, we have to separate from our mulatto weirdos. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's crazy. Um, and the thing is, there's a lot of weirdos who are navigating around here. It's a public platform. It's online. I'm not going to tell anyone not to tune in, not to listen. Some people, I'll highly discourage them if they're troublemakers. But there's people who aren't even mulatto who are just straight up weirdos. So what are you doing here, man? And some of the women, they allow them into the old geezer guy, senile geezer who was always plugging his channel. I'm going to have a broadcast tomorrow about multiracial Americans. Like, who is this guy, man? It's, they let this guy, and he's always taking shots at hybrid. It's he gets off on it or something. I don't know. Um, Racially ambiguous spaces, however, foil this essentialist approach, and that's a good thing. Parker's research says, yeah. She found that just being exposed to a more diverse population is often, as often happens, says when students move from the continental United States to Hawaii for college, leads to a reduction in race essentialism. It also softens the sharp edges of the in group and out group divide, leading to more egalitarian attitudes and an openness to people who might otherwise have been considered part of the out group. So, Hawaii, interesting. That's where we have the Owl Show, is over there, one of our kind of Hawaiian connects. So, the Owl Show has publicly stated that on multiple occasions how he really likes it out there in Hawaii he's compared it to like the southern states in America, how they're very anti-biracial. So very interesting dynamic. He's observed that traveling some of the southern states in America versus Hawaii, and I think he said he likes the bi-coastal regions as well, like the Florida, California. I'm from California, so I didn't have an issue fitting in. I think, yeah, I mean, there's some times depending the environment, it can get challenging. But I moved out of California like a few years ago. So over the past 3 years in this country, America, like from 2019, 2020 to where we are now, 2023, a lot of shit's happened. That's kind of changed, right? The nation has changed in a lot of ways, especially the racial component is probably one of the larger ones, but that's like the elephant in the room. People don't want to talk about, but of course, for us here, we're forced to, especially to form our own group. We can't just play stupid and pretend. We have to be race realist in this regard for our own protection. But yeah, what I was saying is I think California is a good place because there's a lot of us out there, a lot of mulattoes, and especially in San Diego where I was at for a while. I'm not sure about Florida. I've been to Florida, been to New York, haven't lived there. But yeah, in Hawaii could be similar, but compared to the southern states, yeah, it's gonna be tricky. Let me continue on. The students whose views evolved the most, however, were those who've gone beyond and just being exposed to diversity and have built diverse acquaintance networks as well. We're not necessarily talking about their clones friends, but or excuse me, their close friends. It's late, guys. I'm sorry, man. I'm gonna get through this. Apologize. I know I slipped up a few times, but it's kind of late. But I'm here committed to serve you guys, so let's do this. But people they have started to get to know, she says. What does that show us? To change racial attitudes? It's not only being in a diverse environment and soaking things up that makes a difference. You have to formulate relationships with outgroup members. All right, she said a lot of shit there. I'm going to read it slowly one more time so it sticks. Okay, again, apologies. The students whose views evolved the most, however, were those who'd gone beyond just being exposed to diversity and had built diverse acquaintance networks as well. Quote, we are not necessarily talking about their close friends, but people they have started to get to know. Quote, she says, what does that show us? Quote, to change racial attitudes. It's not only being in a diverse environment and soaking things up that makes a difference. You have to formulate relationships with outgroup members, end quote. So understanding. There's another term they have for that. Being open, I guess you can say, and understanding. Yeah, very liberal approach, but if it works, it works. The whole idea is to kind of build connections, be as diplomatic as possible. It's going to only work in our favor. When we talk about gatekeeping, protecting the integrity of the group, that's something we have to do because we've lost our identity, as we've seen in America, with the help of the federal government and also the local level, right? In Virginia, state of Virginia, with Walter Plecker, the one drop rule, 1924 Racial Integrity Act. There's been governmental policy all the way from the county, state, federal level and other entities and other social organizations that have done what they've could to eliminate us as a group. They've tried, it hasn't worked. We're still here talking, but our history is still here, right? And so building it back up and becoming a solidified group, it's not easy. But diplomacy will help us more than anything. But we need to be recognized in our own group. She clearly, oh, let me think I'm moving a little bit too fast. The averageness advantage, this cognitive benefits of being biracial may stem from navigating multiple identities. It's funny, like I said, these words, there's no specificity. They talk about mixedness, biracial, mixed race, multiracial. And like I said, guys, none of those mean anything because all the people they surveyed here, their pictures we have here, they're half Japanese, they're half white, they're half black, half Korean, they're Japanese and Persian. And one guy was white and Bengali. It's like everybody's not the same. Like, and it's great. I love different cultures and different groups. We should embrace that. But where the hell is our group? Eventually, we're gonna need to have a home to go to, right? A home, a tribe to call ours. Being biracial, and that's what it's saying. Like with this kind of ambiguous language, it's almost impossible to do that, to form a group, because nobody knows what the hell you're talking about. When you're saying mulatto, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, specific. I know what you mean. Like in Brazil, they have a term for it. May stem from navigating multiple identities, but some researchers argue that multiracial people enjoy innate benefits as well, most notably, and perhaps controversially, the tendency to be perceived as better looking on average to their monoracial peers. Now, who is it controversial to? Dark skinned monoracial people. Because this is a white lady who's writing this. Is it controversial to white people? I don't think so. Um, where's the controversy, right? The benefit is that we're better looking. The tendency to be perceived. She's saying it's perception. No, it just is. Okay. You look at people like made a few compilation videos of mulatto women, excuse me. No, they just look better than other women. It would I mean perceive. That's my perception. So, and then yeah, controversially, yeah, just darker skinned people. I mean, women particularly, because this is a white woman writing this liberal. But I mean, I don't know, guys. Help me frame this because this is kind of what I'm seeing. I have some educated people here. Um, so the tendency to be perceived as better looking on average than our monoracial peers. Yeah, on average, yeah, a lot of them are. I mean, that's the preference. Now, her, it's not so much. Now, the thing is, looking at her, can we kind of already guess? We have a pretty close guesstimate of what her orientation is. It's interesting how they kind of selected her for this article. Just by looking at her haircut, her nostril piercings, right? We kind of already kind of know that this is a woman, just her based off her facial symmetry, right? That's attracted to other women, right? Which is that's fine. Um, but that's what we have here. So when they get into this whole mixedness and this identity and all this stuff, and then they throw in this other element, I mean, you know, this is what you run into, some of the challenges trying to formulate a group. Some of your major opposition are going to be some people who kind of fall in line with that intersectionality thinking. So let me continue on with this. In a 2005 study, Japanese and white Australians found that faces of half Japanese and half white people are most attractive. I say today the same thing. Like, didn't I? I'll go back to that lady here. Was she Iranian? Yeah, she's half Persian, which, like I said, in Iran, the etymology, you can type it up on Google, you translate it, is land of the Aryan. Iranian people can be classified as Caucasian. Most of them are when they come to America. That's why when you look at the Caucasian box, they check Caucasian. It says people from Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. That's the category for Caucasian, right? And so a lot of Iranian, Persian people are classified as Caucasian. A lot of them look genetically, like I said, they got blonde hair, blue eyes. Not all. I think they're probably the minority today of Persians who look like that. Most Persians that I've seen on average, I'm from Southern California where they have a large Persian community, Iranian Persian. They kind of have my complexion or lighter, darker, depends, and then like brown eyes, black hair. But this is her mixture. So just for all intents and purposes, we can say Hapa white, okay? Middle Eastern white. And Japanese. I mean, she is absolutely gorgeous. So like they said, that survey was in what, 2005? Yeah. So that's, we'll just say 20 years ago. We're in 2023 right now. Let's just say 20. I mean, yeah. Like I've said it before on my channel multiple times, Hapa women are some of the most beautiful women. Of course. I mean, you can do your research survey, but I can just give you my opinion. Yeah, the symmetry is very complimentary. And I've always known that. I've always witnessed that from the environment I grew up in. They just look very pretty. And most, I think these people agree. Japanese and white Australians found the faces of half Japanese, half white people the most attractive. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Compared with those of either of their own race or of single races. Yeah. Like that lady there, the Hapa lady, compared to average. I like Japanese women too, right? I mean, I like all women. I don't like the loudmouth fat ones like multifacial hood rat. But yeah, this lady is extremely attractive. Looks like she's elegant and is well mannered as well, just based off perception here. And then yeah, even he's saying like compared with those of either of their own race. So then white men, I think even hybrids mention that as well. So he's probably seen some similar data based on even white men would prefer her over monoracial white women. A lot of them would, and vice versa. Asian men would prefer the Hapa lady over the a lot of the Asian women. I think that there's something to that. Um, and obviously, we know that's can be seen as well in American regards to mulatto women, and then black women, where black men prefer mulatto women over their own black women, right? So we all know that. Compared with those of either of their own race or single races. White college students in the UK, meanwhile, were shown more than 1,200 Facebook photos of black, white, and mixed race faces in 2009. Study and related the mixed race faces the most attractive. Only 40% of the images used in the study were of mixed race faces, but they represented nearly three quarters of those that made it into the top 5% by attractiveness rating. So this lady is Ukrainian and German. Oh, Ukrainian, German, and Haitian. So mulatto. People called me an Oreo. They asked, "Why you talking white?" Well, where she grow up at? They're telling her why she's talking white. Tamalia Saint Lot. She grew up in Haiti. Saint Lot didn't relate to being black or white and was picked on by every side. Today, some friends are of mixed race and questions of racial identity are less. She's a mulatto, right? More recently, a 2008 study by psychologist Elena Stepnova and the University of Southern Mississippi and Michael Strube at Washington University in St. Louis found this a group of white, black, Asian, and Latino college students rated mixed race faces the most attractive. Interesting. Followed by single race black faces. St. Louis, though. A group of white, black, Asian studied rated mixed race faces most attractive. So St. Louis, oh wait, say University of Southern Mississippi and Michael Strube at Washington University in St. Louis. So we got to look at the demographics. Mississippi is a majority black, right? Southern Mississippi is going to be majority black. And then St. Louis is a predominantly black city. Let's see what the demographics are. St. Louis demographics, just for purpose sake. I'm here. I know black is so is 25% is black, and then 65 is around white. Okay, well, let me get back to this. And it says found that the group of white, black, and Asian and Latino college students rated mixed race faces the most attractive, followed by single race black faces. Yeah, I don't know, man. I like to see some graphs, some more direct numbers to kind of cross check that that specific source. Step Nova wanted to know. Well, I mean, like I said, I agree with it. The fact that obviously I always this channel I promote that, yeah, mulatto women are most beautiful. But we need ones that are not going to be Jezebels and have a little nasty attitude. Um, but if they want to have that attitude, I'm pretty sure Pookie will have open arms because Pookie's going to be voting for voting for you the most attractive. So have fun being a baby mama. Stepnova wanted to know which of the two prevailing theories could better explain this finding. The averageness hypothesis, which holds that humans prefer facial symmetry. Yeah, averageness, they talk about facial symmetry hypothesis, which holds that humans prefer a composite of all faces to one specific face. That's a facial symmetry. Or the hybrid vigor theory, that parents from different genetic backgrounds produce healthier and possibly more attractive children, right? Pretty sure most of you are familiar with the hybrid vigor theory. And yeah, the averageness for sure will fall in line with that facial symmetry, like we showed that. Go back for reference. I don't want to lose my spot here. Almost done, guys. I appreciate you guys, holding out, being with me here. So we talk about facial symmetry and averageness, where her ratings are going to be very high. When men will give her like on a rating scale, generally I can just say she's probably like an 8 to a 9 on a scale 1 to 10. That's just me generally. Can't hear her talk. I don't know anything about the woman. But looking at the facial symmetry, your hair, her eyes, her nose, cheekbone, that averageness. Yeah, she's way high on the scale, right? And a lot of Hapa women are. So there is something to be said about that. Okay, so in the study, Stepnova adjusted the features of skin tones and computer generated faces to create a range of blends and found that the highest attractiveness ratings went to those that were closest to a 50-50 blend of white and black mulatto. And excuse me, I like to use Denise Kielholtz. I like her a lot. I follow her. She was like Andrew Tate's prior sparring partner. She has a muscular build. Obviously, she's a fighter. She's a friggin' cage fighter. And it amazes me how a woman this beautiful with that kind of face, this kind of face, has is a cage fighter. You know, when I first saw her, this is her right here. She has a muscular build. Obviously, she's a fighter. She's a straight woman. Her husband is a mulatto as well. And of course, I know she probably dated. She was coaching and training with Andrew Tate, so they dated for sure. They didn't publicly announce that, but it was kind of obvious. Her facial symmetry is superb. I have her image of her in the video I did recently about beautiful mulatto women. Yeah, her facial symmetry, and it correlates with what I want partner. Yeah, her husband or partner is she's mulatto dude, tall cat. He's a Dutch kickboxer. So here's a good picture of her right here. Yeah, you look at her face, you're like, yeah, of course. That 50-50 scale, European, African, she's gonna rank really high. What I was saying is that the first time I saw her, as I was watching fights on TV, they have a Bellator channel on Pluto TV where they air fights all day. And the first time I seen this woman was in a similar like this picture, like in the cage, getting ready before the fight when they're calling out to each fighter. The fighter in the red corner stands, 5 feet 8 inches tall, 120 pounds or whatever. And I saw her face there, and of course they rub Vaseline on their face, right? All the fighters before the fight, and I saw her there. She even kind of had a stern look, like she does right now here in this picture. She's getting ready for battle. This is when the fight's starting, so she's kind of fresh, right? But when I first saw her, I was like, "Wow, who is this chick?" And I saw the names. Of course, do a little Google search, like, "Oh, Denise Kielholtz. This is a beautiful woman. This woman's a fighter." You're looking at her face, like, you have such a pretty face. I'm surprised, like, this lady is a fighter. But yeah, she works her ass off as This is her last fight. She lost. Even a picture up here, you can tell her hair. Okay, I just want to share that part is about the 50-50 thing. She falls in line with that. Like I said, the first time I saw her, she was gonna fight, but I saw her face. Her face is what stood out. I was like, the symmetry is superb. Um, 50-50 blend of uh, white and black, which of course Miss Denise Kielholtz falls in line with that. These faces, like again, we're talking about the averageness, the facial symmetry, had almost perfectly equal Afrocentric and Eurocentric physiognomy. Did I pronounce that correctly? Physiognomy. I pronounced it correctly. Yeah. First time seeing that. Physiognomy. But that's that facial symmetry, right? That averageness, right? And they says the perfectly equal Afrocentric and Eurocentric. I think Denise Kielholtz is a great model for that. The lady I just shared with you guys, I feel like it's very complimentary. The Mulatto aesthetic, especially for her. Um, yeah, I don't want to say anything rude, but I think Denise Kielholtz is definitely a great standard. That's why I shared her on the video. She says, along with the medium skin tone, both darker and lighter than average complexions were seen as less attractive. Medium, they're talking about this medium grade versus darker light. Yeah. The beautiful thing about mulattoes is we can go either way, lighter and darker. Like I said, for me, I think it's the sun's getting out, so I'm getting a little darker. But when the sun creeps away and it's in winter season, then you can really tell I'm very light skinned. But well, light skinned to I guess someone with compared. I'm light skinned for someone with African blood, at least 50%, right? Because my father, my black family, they're not mixed. They're not MGMs. They're all dark skinned black people with very minimal admixture. They probably most black Americans have admixture. We all know that. Doesn't mean they're mixed. And that's why we gotta say mulatto is specific. You're not gonna drag my ass back to the community. So whenever I say something you don't like, you can outgroup me. It's not gonna work anymore. The internet is waking up a lot of people. So continuing on, we're almost done here, guys. I appreciate you guys being here. If you guys haven't hit the like button, I'm pretty sure most of you guys have hit the like button. I appreciate that. So Sharp in the house saying, I'm curious about our depression stats because we live double lives or have. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's pretty high in a lot of cases. That's why it's important for us to have a tribe, have a group that we can network with each other, have that sense of belonging, and we can, if we have problems or issues, we should feel comfortable to sort it out. But getting off the internet though, too, we need real world, real life, uh, problem solving as well, right? Which we do have that. Um, and of course, I think Magic Mulata did an interview. She was consulting with like a mixed race therapist. For me personally, as a man, I think the good way to deal with my therapeutic needs for me is to travel, go into nature, but also music, playing guitar, and fitness. And I know you probably fall in line with that as well with boxing. I think fitness works out with for a lot of us, and it's a good way for as men to compete against other men and to build a camaraderie because men, we establish camaraderie and we connect when we compete and we develop a purpose. And it's even better when we can put two minds together and we can compete against something else greater or a larger force, right? If that makes sense, if I'm wording that correctly. But I think we had definitely established a lot of camaraderie with competition. So sports is a great way to do that. Yeah, Jose, on my platform. Thank you for showing up, Gigi. And it says, these results seem to support the theory that we prefer average faces, averageness, because they correspond most closely to the phenotype we carry in our minds, the aggregated memory of what a face should look like. That would help explain why we favor a 50-50 mix of features and skin tones, especially since that doesn't always correspond to a 50-50 mix of genes, Stepnova says. Quote, the genes that are actually expressed can vary, she says. A 2005 study led to psychologist Craig Roberts at Scotland's University of Stirling however, supports the hybrid vigor hypothesis that genetic diversity makes people more attractive by virtue of their, quote, apparent healthiness, quote. The study didn't focus on multiracial people per se, but on people who'd inherit a different gene variant from each parent in a section of DNA that plays a key role in regulating the immune system, as opposed to the two copies of the same variant. Men who were heterozygous with two different versions of these genes proved to be more attractive to women than those who were homozygous. These are more technical scientific terms here for you guys. And while being heterozygous doesn't necessarily mean you are multiracial, having parents of different races makes you much more likely to fall into this category, Robert says. I'm going to speed things up. I know I've been blabbing for close to 2 hours now. I still got some of you guys in here. I appreciate you guys being here. I know it's late as fuck. I got off work. I'm dedicated Mulatto Monday to speak to you guys. But I want to I kind of pushed this stream back a week. I was supposed to do this last week, so I just got to make sure I, get this out there for you guys. And it's going good. So another cat here looks quintessentially Hapa, correct? Chinese Caucasian. Yeah. Went to a high school, 90%, 95% white. While he met other ethnic groups in college, many of them spoke different languages. Now he feels at home working in diverse tech industry. When he walked into a photo shoot, the story, he thought, oh, I belong here. Yeah. Yeah, he looks quintessential Hapa. So like I said, even in this whole article, there was one Blasian. Pretty much everyone else was mulatto. And then even the researcher they have in the article, Sarah Gaither, the lady here, what was her name? Damn it. Whatever. Okay, slipped my mind. What the hell's the lady's name? I have to know now. I've been talking so much. We know Sarah Gather here is a mulatto woman who's one of the researchers here. Okay, I talked about her before, but the other lady we're talking about who's Danish and black. How could this slip my mind? I've been speaking about her right here. Daros. Okay, yeah. So primarily, like I said, in a lot of this is a white person. Now he's the one Blasian here, but this is she's also African and indigenous, Hapa, Iranian, Japanese. This is Hapa. Yeah, he's Jewish, Russian, and then Japanese. And this is another guy. He's white and Bengali, which is like South Asian. That they're closely related to like Pakistan and India, East India. So mulatto woman, German and Haitian, and of course Hapa. So that's what I'm kind of seeing here. And like I said, with the other gentleman, I forgot his name. Howard Zick, I think his name is Howard something. I forgot his last name, but he's a Caucasian Jewish guy, American, who wrote the book Breeding Between the Lines, which I haven't read yet, but I kind of covered one of his interviews a couple months ago. But he is the same situation. I never heard of the Hapa Issues Forum until I covered his interview and I read some background of info of him. I'm like, interesting. The Hoplas have their own, but he's throwing us, a Caucasian guy, into the same category uh, with Hoppas, mulattoes and Hoppas, but they don't call us mulattoes. They don't want to give us our name. And we can't ask them to give us shit. We have to just demand it and state this is what we are. We have to be professional with it, right? Having legitimate organizations, like shout out to one of my day one supporters, Telling Stewart, Mulatto Preservation. This is how we make that, official. When we put an LLC behind it, we have government documentation, we have 501c3s, nonprofit organizations. We brand ourselves in a way they can't deny us of our identity. It's there. And so I see with the Hoppas, they have that. They have a name that binds them together. But with us, with the mulattoes, they want to use us and throw us in these other groups to serve. Primarily a lot of the black groups and then also the LGBT groups, right? They want us to serve them. And there's white people, these liberals that are in these positions to make that happen. They're writing these articles about us. We're like, well, wait a second. You're not going to call I'm a biracial, an interracial, a multiracial, mixed race. That doesn't say shit. I'm mulatto. Okay. And I'm here and I'm talking about this. So continuing on, whether those good looking heterozygotes are actually healthier or just appear so is debatable. Studies have shown, and remind you guys, as a Caucasian woman writing this article. So, yeah. Studies have shown that heterozygotes are indeed more resistant to infectious diseases, including hepatitis B and HIV, and have a lower risk of developing that skin disease, cirrhosis. Significant because healthy skin plays a clear role in attractiveness, but other researchers have been unable to find a correlation between attractiveness and actual health, which may been which may be a testament to the power of modern medicine, especially vaccinations and antibiotics, in helping the less heterozygous among us overcome any genetic susceptibility to illness, Robert says. Research versus real world. Some researchers have explo- extrapolated, exploitated. See, I'm learning as you guys are learning, right? So extrapolate, extrapolate. Even further suggesting that along with possible good looks and good health, multiracial people might be genetically gifted in other ways. Cardiff University psychologist Michael B. Lewis, who led the 2009 UK study on attractiveness, argues that the genetic diversity that comes with being mixed race may in fact lead to improved performance in a number of areas. As evidence, he points to the seemingly high representation of multiracial people in the top tiers of professions that require skill, such as Tiger Woods in golf. Tiger Woods is Blasian. They're saying multiracial people. He has a whole, doesn't they call it Cablinasian? I believe when I talked about the kind of mulatto categories or whatever on a few weeks ago, the article I read, I'm a standard mulatto, and that's me, yours truly, MV. But Tiger Woods, I think he's self identified as Cablinasian, which is a category they have, or Blasian, whatever you want to say. His Vietnamese mom and black father. In golf, Holly Berry in acting, who's a mulatta. Okay. Lewis Hamilton in Formula One racing. I don't know. I don't follow the sport. And then Barack Obama in politics is a mulatto, right? Other researchers argue that this conclusion is an overreach. They counter that genetics don't make multiracial people better at golf or even necessarily better looking. I don't know. Other researchers argue that this conclusion is an overreach. I would like to see some of the counter arguments, to be honest with you. Instead of this kind of general summary, I'd like to see some source. Probably right here. I'm kind of going ahead of myself. Let me continue on. Genetics don't make multiracial people better at golf or even necessarily better looking. Some studies have found no difference in perceived attractiveness between mixed race and single race faces. Others have confirmed that a preference for mixed race faces exists, but have concluded it has more to do with prevailing cultural standards than any genetic predisposition to beauty. So cultural standards, because the one of the surveys they did was in the UK. The other one they did was in Australia with the hop that the both the white and Japanese men preferred the Hapa faces, and then the other one was in St. Louis University and then Mississippi University. So I think all the four of those locations could possibly be, yeah, diverse for sure. It's not like rural places. 2012 study by Jennifer Patrice Sims, a sociologist at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, found that in general, mixed race people were perceived as more attractive than people one race. So that's what we're seeing here. I want to see the counter argument that he references here. Other researchers argue this conclusion is an overreach. I'd love to see some of the arguments to say that mixed race people are not seen as more attractive. I mean, why do you think Zoe Kravitz is all over the place? Look at her face. I mean, she's gorgeous, you know. Zendaya, who I mean, personally, I mean, yeah, she's pretty, she's cute, but I'd probably say she's like a 6. I'd put, Sade in Sade in like the 80s before my time or 90s. She's like a 9 or a 10. Denise Kielholtz, I think she's prettier face than Zendaya. There's so many others. I don't even need to get into that right now, but I just think generally we are better looking. So found this in general, mixed race people were perceived as more attractive than people of one race, but not all racial mixes. Interesting. See, that's where specificity comes into play. Not all racial mixes. as would be the case if the cause was genetic diversity alone. In her research, mixed Black Native Americans and Black Asians were rated the most attractive of all. Interesting. The hybrid vigor theory, Sims argues, is based on the false presumption of biological distinct races. She points instead to evidence that attractiveness is a social construct heavily dependent on time and place. In the US right now, she says the biracial beauty stereotype is a dominant narrative. It's a social construct. I gotta look at Sims. Jennifer Patrice Sims. This lady in a 2012 study is saying it's a social. She's a sociologist. Well, all these people here are sociologists, Sarah Gathered and all that. Let's see what Jennifer Patrice Sims looks like. It's a social construct. Mixed race people are not more attractive. You're going to take away jobs from my dark skinned sisters with broad noses and kinky hair. It's not fair. This looks like Jennifer Sims here. Mixed race in the US and the UK. So she's contributing to the mixed race discussion a lot, is what it seems. And these people, they have the academic support, they have funding, they have donors from LGBT organizations and other liberal progressive organizations. So they're well funded, they're well resourced, and they're also well organized. As you can see with the brochures they've created, critical mixed race studies, critical, comparing the past, present, future to, you know, is that a woman or a guy? I think it's the same right here. Same. I think we kind of all know where this is going. Because when you come into the mixed race discussion, it is heavily entrenched in intersectionality, feminism, and LGBTism. Comparing the past, yeah, Jennifer, this is her book here. Mixed race studies in the US and the UK. I mean, is this an authority person? Is this lady who's telling you that, beauty is a social construct? This lady, are you gonna believe her word because she's got a little doctor initial in front of her name? So I'm gonna just solely respect that, or am I gonna challenge it? Am I gonna go take more classes? Get degreed up, advance higher? I don't know. As a man, I'm a competitor. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna challenge. Compete. I'm not gonna sit there and just blame the whole system. There's some things that's worthy of doing, but to say beauty is a social construct, and I'm looking at this lady who's saying that. I think it's because you can't compete, man. Humanities, social science, which has a doctorate in sociology, right? Sociologist. This image is all blurry, but it's a brochure. Yeah. So this is the lady, Jem Sims, who's basically Jennifer Patrice Sims, who's basically telling us that it's not true. Mixed race people are more beautiful. It's a social construct. In the US right now, she says the biracial beauty standard. Now, remember this article, well, she did the study in 2012. So when this whole article was crafted and wrote was 2020. So maybe the account she has now is 2020. Biracial beauty stereotype is a dominant narrative. Yeah. Clearly, obviously, I don't agree with her at all. Um, Yeah, let me continue on. Wherever's in the past, particularly for women, the stereotypical Northern European phenotype of blonde hair, blue eyes, pale skin was considered the most attractive. It still is, actually, to be honest with you. I've seen some of those women. Should I say it? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're still considered some of the most attractive. The beauty standard is still the blonde hair, blue eyes. Even Andrew Tate, who himself mulatto, mixed race guy, he even said himself, they asked him what his type was. He said he likes the Barbie doll kind, blonde hair, blue eyed. Now, me personally, I like mulatto aesthetic and then like Latina, but yeah, also the Hapa for sure, or even East Indian. I like chicks who are like darker than me. I like the East Indian or South Asian, his aesthetic as well. So I can go all over the place. But yeah, I do like the blonde hair, blue eye, but that's not like number one for me, but for a lot of guys it is. Most attractive, think Marilyn Monroe. Contemporary beauty standards now value tan skin and wavy curly hair. Think Beyonce. Well, I've never really found Beyonce, me personally, most attractive. I never understood the whole buzz where they call her B or Queen Bee. She's one of these boss bees. She has a song, to the left, and independent woman, think Destiny's Child, or she has all these songs where it's like confrontational with men because her audience are the baby mama losers, the women. I don't need no man. I'm strong and independent. But of course, Beyonce has a man. Beyonce's married. She has a family. She has kids. So she's grifting, making money off all these losers in the community who are strong and independent, who don't need no man. They baby mamas, and they love Queen Bee. That they call it the Beehive, the Beyonce fan club. They call it the Beehive. So she's done a good job grifting these losers, making money off them, selling them a fabricated lifestyle of being a strong, independent woman. And she's got a man she goes home to, and you idiots are alone, begging government zaddy to pay off your student loan debt. But what I want to say is with Beyonce, I've always liked Kelly Rowland more than Beyonce. Darker skin chick. She has really good facial symmetry. I've always been attracted more, even back in Destiny's Child, because I'm from that area. I'm a millennial, so I remember all this stuff. I've never really been a fan of Beyonce, but yeah, I know a couple of her songs. How can you not? They play that crap everywhere. But yeah, compared to, like I said, I don't look at her as a standard of beauty. I would say Beyonce is probably like a 6 or 7. Kelly Rowland's like a 8 or a 9. That's me personally. Kelly Rowland's way more attractive than Beyonce. That's just me, my personal opinion. Let me continue on. Um, by saying biracial people are inherently beautiful isn't a harmless compliment. It could contribute to exotification and objectification. Now, this is a white lady who's not attractive. Okay. She's saying that it can be harmful. They're, ex- uh, making you feel exotic, or what they say, exotifying. I'm just segueing because I want to share an image of this lady again, Jennifer Latson. The words, the article. This lady here, come on. They have a term when they call like a plain Jane, right? Plain Jane, basically, or a uh flat back. you know, that's a term that I heard the cat CGA, who's kind of funny. He says that a lot. I think his ex-wife was white or something too. He has mixed kids, but um he said he describes a lot of them. He say like a stock factory issued something. He uses funny terminology, but she looks kind of plain, right? Not really exotic. Yeah, she's cute. Good facial symmetry. She got the blue eyes, the blonde hair, the Nordic look, pale skin. Yeah, she's cute. Well, I would say she's, I don't know what I would give her as a rating scale in this picture compared to this one. I don't know. She looks like she's kind of, I don't know what the hell she's doing here. But this picture is pretty decent. Yeah, this short haircut here. Uh, what I'd say, probably say she's maybe a 5 or 6. Just pearly things. Okay, she just pearly things is like a 4 at best. This lady's prettier face than just pearly things. Just giving you guys my opinion. But this is a lady who's writing the article, who wrote the article, I should say, past tense. And she basically said, well, um, it can be exotification and objectification. It's not just harmless. You can objectify them. Yeah, whatever. Give me all the compliments. I need all the compliments. I've been getting a lot. I was telling this Kenyan lady the other day, one of my friends I was talking to, I was telling her, like, I've had a lot of people give me compliments, like white people, black people. I've had Hispanic people too give me compliments on how I look. So I was like, shit, I'll take it. You're going to tell me I look good. I'll take it. For many biracial people, these reports of heightened attractiveness are an unwelcoming distraction, obscuring and delegitimizing the true challenges they face. They don't have a group. They don't have a sense of belonging. Okay, well, create a group. Okay, you're in a first world nation. You have clean drinking water, electricity. You have internet connection. Just get to work. Form a group. The challenge is it's not that severe, man. We're in a civilized, peaceful nation. I mean, for the most part, they want to try to make us seem like, you know, I'm not a victim, guys. I'm not coming up here to cry and complain to be a SJW. No, we're gonna demand our right as mulattoes, and we're not asking it. We're gonna meet a lot of opposition, a lot of forces. Okay, especially a lot of people are gonna be in opposition. It's too damn bad. Still gonna be here, even though studies say we are seen as more beautiful. My lived experience negates that. Says Ben O'Keefe, political consultant who has a black father and white mother, mulatto. We are trying to frame it as if we have become a more accepting society, but we haven't. There are still many people who wouldn't be comfortable dating outside their race. Well, that's on them. You can't tell people, you're going to shame them for only wanting to be with their own. Because I grew up, it's very normal for Hispanic, Mexican people to want to be with their own. Where I come from, it was actually a very admirable thing. Growing up, that's how I seen it. Like, they have a lot of racial pride. Mexican people, Hispanic people, they have a lot of racial pride. Like, I would see with the men and the women, where they would prefer their counterpart. So to me, that's normal for them, and they're good looking people. The Mexican women, I mean, a lot of my partners, most of them been Mexican women. So yeah, they've, always, like I said, for me, the scale, I would say mulatto first, and yeah, Latina would be right next to them, pretty close. And like I said, most of the Mexican women I've seen in California, where I'm from, they preferred Mexican men. Yeah, they would, yeah, date black guys, date white guys, yeah, but they would generally prefer their men, which is healthy, and vice versa. Okay, a lot of my Mexican friends, they preferred Mexican women. To me, it's very normal and healthy, right? But you have some people like this cat, Ben O'Keefe. There's still many people who wouldn't be comfortable dating outside their race. It's everyone's preference, man. I mean, what are you gonna shame them to make them date you? They don't like you. They don't like you. There's billions of people on the planet. There's enough to go around. You're gonna find people who do want to mess with you. So just focus on those ones, right? College student, Asa Del Razio Canel, Filipino Caucasian, might have felt left, excuse me, might have felt a little different growing up, but he was never ridiculed or singled out early on, though he knew he had to learn about two very different cultures, keeping multiple perspectives in play. He's proud of that, and it helped him understand where he's coming from. So Hapa, right, Filipino, but obviously we kind of see, yeah, something there. I don't know, alternative, but whatever. O'Keefe's father wasn't present when he was growing up. That's not a shocker. Um, Apart from his brother and sister, he was surrounded by white people. His mother raised him to embrace the principle of color blindness. Since race doesn't matter, she argued, why acknowledge it at all? O'Keefe thought of himself essentially as white. When people asked what he was, he said Italian, which is true. He's Italian, Irish, and African American. Hmm. Uh, yeah. Almost done here, guys. I appreciate all you people, beautiful people, tuned in. And I think because I'm like, I already covered Sarah Gather. So I just found, if this is the gentleman, I'm pretty sure Ben O'Keefe that they're referencing. Ben O'Keefe is a Forbes 30 under 30 award winning multi hyphenated chief executive officer of chaotic goods. So is this the cat? I don't know. I'm guessing it is, but Benjamin O'Keefe, Netroots Nation, whatever. Let me go back to the article. I just thought I could find something real quick to give some context. Okay, I got a couple people in the chat. I got a few of you actually. Well, I got a people in the clouds watching, I should say, but I got some of the loyal contributors here in the chat. So let me shout you guys out. We still have to remember we are part black, so we are used for liberal experiments. That's very true. Hoppas have way more leverage than us and are usually their fathers or military. Yeah, it's interesting. Business expats. Yeah, because I think generally in America, most Hoppas have white fathers. I would say, yeah, it's the majority of them. Correct. Yeah, or white fathers, Asian moms, Hoppas. So with that, there is, like you said, they have their fathers are military or business owners or business expats. So Department of Defense, DoD. So they do have a lot of leverage, social leverage, right? Where a lot of mulattoes, right? We have black fathers, white moms, and in many cases, unfortunately, hate to admit it, the father bounced. You know, good thing in my case, my story is I did get a lot of influence with my father at an early age, so I got to have that relationship. Things your son and father do, go fishing, go on bike rides, go to the arcade. So I got to experience that bond early on, which is good, but a lot of people don't. A lot of mulattoes grow up in the foster care system and stuff like that, so they're cut off from either one parent or both entirely. That's very challenging, especially with identity formation compared to, like you said, other groups like Hapa. Like I said, I'm not a victim. I'm like I'm saying, it's just our challenges are unique. That's why I want to highlight that and point it out when we compare ourselves to other groups. You're saying Kelly Rowland, you talking about, and that the image that I shared, you weren't digging that one. So it says if mulattoes want to marry, we need a social contract and fix the family courts. There has to be shame towards single mothers and extorters, right? The baby mama crowd has their head held to. Yeah, they're proud to be losers. And they'll twist it in a way. We've seen this in the YouTube spaces, right? Where like the ghetto, uneducated hood rats, like multifacial hood booger, she'll frame it in a way like, oh, you don't have a legacy. Being a younger guy with no, babies, illegitimate children out of wedlock, they'll frame you as being like, what I want to say, like no legacy. But then they have their heads high, like you're a fucking hood rat baby mama. You're not married. You don't have a wedding ring. You're not committed to a man. You're a fucking loser hood rat. You're a baby mama. We should laugh at you, but they have their head high. They're, in society, they're given so much praise for irresponsible behavior instead of going to college like a normal civilized woman, like a decent lady, instead of getting education, taking care of yourself, your family, you decide to get knocked up by some loser and have a kid and live off the government. And then these people, they have their head high, they want to be praised. I'm not praising you fools. But I agree with what you said, Sharp. We definitely need to have a social contract back in place. And really, yeah, the family courts where their single moms are basically extorting. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I'm not in the whole marriage conversation right now. I'm not thinking about it right now. I too many plans to travel first. But my brother's married and it's working out pretty good for him. And I like how my brother's situation is where his wife is a stay-at-home mom. He makes all the money, he pays all the bills. I like that situation. That's something I want to replicate for myself. There's no way I'm going to be married, have kids, and then my wife is going to go work for some other man. In today's world, I wouldn't do it. So the ideal situation, I think, for guys would be to either employ your wife, have her work for you, or just take care of all the bills, pay for everything. And how you're going to do that, you have a passport, you have plenty of options, you have a lot of women around the planet. So you tell me, you figure it out. But, you know, yeah, the courts are not really they're allowing people to extort people, and they're incentivizing bad, inappropriate, irresponsible behavior, like being a baby mama. We should laugh at you. Like I said, but they want to turn it around and be like, you know, you don't have any children. Yeah, because I'm a responsible adult, debt free, zero debt, pay my taxes. I work every day, you know. college educated. You do everything the right way. Oh, but yeah, you gotta laugh at these characters you run into, man, on internet. Excuse me, political consultant who has a black father and white. Oh, I just covered that. Ben O'Keefe. Yeah, I shared you guys. I don't even know if that was him. Almost done, guys. Appreciate you guys being here. If you haven't already, hit the like button. Pretty sure most of you that are here riding it out, you already have. Love you guys. Appreciate it. So let's continue. O'Keefe's father wasn't present when he was growing up. That's a shocker, right? Like I said, I already read all this crap. He's Italian, Irish, and African American. But other people's perceptions didn't match his self image. A store clerk once followed him from an aisle to aisle and accused him of shoplifting. While walking one night in an upper class, predominantly white Florida community, O'Keefe was stopped by police who pulled their guns on him because residents had reported a suspicious black teen. When Trayvon Martin was killed nearby under similar circumstances, it triggered an awakening in O'Keefe. I had always felt more white, but the world didn't see me that way. The path forward. As much as O'Keefe wishes that milestones such as Obama's presidency signal the dawn of a post-racial America, he encounters daily reminders that racism endures. One boy he dated in high school. There it is, guys. One boy he dated in high school didn't want to bring O'Keefe home to meet his parents. Oh, they don't know you're gay? Shit. It went there. It went there. I apologize, guys. O'Keefe asked, no, they do. The boy responded, they just freak out if they knew I was dating a black guy. Yeah. O'Keefe has encountered discrimination in the black community as well. Well, of course, you're mulatto, you know. That's what happened. The community, they don't want to talk about it, but we have to. And then when we talk about it, you're anti-black. Really? I'm anti-black for pointing out that you're anti-mixed race. Okay, I guess that makes sense. Where others have told him, you're not really black. You ain't black like me unless I can use you. They see me with light skin and a white family, and that has given me advantages. I recognize that. Their experience being seen as nothing but black influences that perception. While he understands the reasoning, it still hurts. It's saying, you're not black enough to be a real black man. You gotta be a real nigga from the hood. You gotta listen to the baby. You gotta listen to Nipsey Hussle. Oh man, you ain't from the hood, man. You from the suburbs, dog. Oh man, I'm trying to get me a light skinned woman and smoke some blunts and play Xbox. Oh, you ain't from the hood, dog. But you are black enough to be held up at gunpoint by police. Yeah, that sucks. Wrong place at the wrong time. The, and those days he doesn't get asked, "What are you?" These days, excuse me, these days he doesn't get asked, "What are you?" as much as he once did, which could be a sign of progress or simply a byproduct of moving in a more quote woke circles as an adult. He says, "Yeah, I mean you're LGBT, so that's kind of congruent with wokeness, right? Progressiveness, LGBT, blackness." That's all kind of similar circles. As an adult, he says, but when he does get asked, he identifies as black. I'm a black man who is multiracial. Okay. If you say so, I guess. I'm a black man who is multiracial. Because a black man wouldn't include multiracial. A black man would say, oh, I'm just black. I'm black. I think I have something for that, right? Where they have that. I'm just black. I'm a black man. I'm black. Where they got that? I think I got something here for that. Where is it? Where is it? I got so many tracks here I gotta sort through. Here it is, right there.
I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all. I'm blickety black, blacker than black, black.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that for some, comedic relief. Yeah, I'm a black man. A black man wouldn't really add, say, well, I'm multiracial too. Your favorite pro-whack grifter, Dr. Umar Johnson, the prince of Papa John's Pizza, he doesn't want you to include that here, right? He just wants you to say black. He doesn't like it when you include multiracial. But it doesn't diminish my identity as a black man. Well, yeah, whatever. We already know there's something going on with that cat. So his mother too has abandoned her colorblind approach after coming to see it as unrealistic and ultimately unhelpful. We have had some really hard conversations about race, O'Keefe says. She's embraced that it matters and we need to talk about it. And we can't fix problems if they don't exist. Here we got here the path toward a more egalitarian America will be paved with hard conversations about race, says Gather. That's Sarah Gather, who's a sociologist at Duke University, mulatto woman. Because I talked about this lady plenty of times, I'll show you guys an image of her again. Um, but because I did a whole article on her prior before. I think it's kind of since she's brought up so many times in this article, mine as well. So here she is. So they've quoted her plenty of times. This is her. So old picture. Look at her. It's a mulatto woman. See, and I even mentioned that before. Like her brother looks way more mulatto presenting than her, right? Just she came out of the womb looking quite different, right? So nobody would basically say she's like part black. They're like, really? Everyone would be surprised. Even I'm surprised. Shit. But yeah. This is her family, her mother, her father is at her wedding, her brother there. I shared these images on, like I said, several months ago. But this is the woman there referencing a lot, Gather, Sarah Gather. Um, and she was so happy that her one of her colleagues identified her as black. She's like, "Oh yes, I'm part of the club now." And she does a lot of work, yeah, with she works at Duke University, which is a prestigious school, sociologist. So yeah, I guess she does research there. Interesting. I gotta look more into her, to be honest with you, because reading this article, it's evident psychology and yeah, it's very evident that she's pretty much in neuroscience, Duke University. She's engaged in a discussion. We got to know what these people are talking about because, like I said, they're trying to position us to serve a pro-black, leftist, progressive, LGBT people of color agenda, where they don't even want us to have an identity, a mulatto group. I'm not singling her out particularly, but she's could be working for entities and organizations who do want to push that. And that's against our best interests, right? As a people, we just want our own spaces, our own group, be recognized as our own group like everybody else, but they want to use us to eliminate race entirely. And I didn't sign up for that shit. As long as I have the freedom of speech, I have an internet connection, a microphone, I can publicly say, no, I'm not for that. So who knows? I think in the future, I'll probably end up talking to Sarah Gather. I don't know. I'll set it up. Let's see. So, like I said, they referenced her here, Gather. She's all in this article. Who is multiracial herself? Yes, mulatto woman, white mother, black father. Her research shows that just being around biracial people makes white people less likely to endorse a colorblind ideology. And that colorblindness, although well initiated, uh, intentioned, excuse me, it's so late, guys. We're almost done. It's ultimately harmful to race relations. In a series of studies published in 2018, Gather found that the more contact white people had with biracial people, the less they considered themselves colorblind. And the more comfortable they were discussing issues around race that they would otherwise have avoided. This suggests that a growing multiracial population will help shift racial attitudes, but it doesn't mean the transition will be easy. And this lady here, very nice symmetry. Of course, I love the hair too, the curls. Very nice symmetry. The averageness, right? Now, this would probably be more so on the averageness, like I said, the 50-50, I guess you can say, closer to that 50-50 range, where it's extremely complimentary. She's an actress. Okay, that makes sense. You have a face made for television. Yeah, that makes sense. You're an actress for sure. Nina Kasa, Russian Ethiopian, hasn't always fit into roles neatly. She isn't black or white, just in between. I wanted a more polished look and tried straightening my hair. That only made her feel like an imposter. It took her a while, but now she just doesn't care and embraces her black curls. Yeah, the curls look good too, for sure. Almost done, guys. If you are in a primarily white environment and multiracial populations are growing, you may find that threatening and look for ways to reaffirm your place in the hierarchy, says the University of Hawaii's Parker. As minority populations grow, that's going to be hard adjustment on both sides. While there's no population threshold that once reached, while signal the end of racism in America, that will signal an end to racism in America, being around more multiracial people can at least nudge monoracials to start thinking and talking more about what race really is. I don't know, man. It's like seems like liberal talk because power is not given, power is taken. And this nation has basically been established on a racial hierarchy. It's been that way since day one. I mean, the pep talks, I don't, you have to have institutional strength and power and organization and have a code of conduct. And other people have it because they have a code system where if you're off code, you get punished for it. There's penalties and there's a level of of how severe it is, severity, right? And then of some people, they're tribalistic, they have no damn code. You can steal, rob your own damn people, and then they're still going to be cheering you on, bringing you to the cookout. Look at BLM. BLM, a bunch of grifters and scammers taking donation money. You still have people in the communita who will praise them and bring them to the cookout, right? So it's, you have a lack of code, morals, and ethics with with certain people, certain groups, compared to others, where their structure is more tight knit and fortified. And I think that's that power dynamic. So you can at least nudge. You're gonna poke at them, just poke at them a tiny bit, get them to start taking race issues seriously. And the whole nation's been built on race. I mean, yeah, these conversations help, I guess. Look, my whole thing is I just want my group. Okay, I want to, and by doing this as a media platform, people are gonna hear me. There's gonna be a lot of people who aren't gonna like it. Good, good. Okay, do something about it. But then there's gonna be people who do like it, and those are the people I want to serve. I'm here. I'm happy and delighted to serve those people. Yet they have a voice, and I'm, proud to be that voice. Not that I asked for it. I mean, it is what this is something that I'm destined to do. We are not the solution to race relations, but we cause people to rethink what race may or may not mean to them, which I hope will lead to more open and honest discussions, says Gather. So she's their sociologist researcher in this article. The good news is that our attitudes and identities are malleable. Exposing people to those who are different is the best way to promote inclusion. And the side effect is that we can benefit cognitively as well. If we start acknowledging that we all have multiple identities, we all have multiple identities. I don't know about that. We can all be more flexible and creative. And then that's it. That's the whole article. And damn, it took me what, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Damn, you guys, riding along, stuck with me. Late as hell, we got through it. People, and this says the multi-ethnic elite, people of mixed race are well represented at the top of many industries. Yeah, Kamala Harris, Camel Toe Harris, Keanu Reeves, right? He's what the number one action movie star in a country. He's a Hoppa guy. This lady is Blasian. She's married to Russell Simmons. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson's Blasian. We know him, movie star, wrestler. Derek Jeter's Mulatto cat. And this cat, nobody knows what the hell he is. I mean, I guess they do. He's what, Puerto Rican and Filipino, but it's basically minstrel show. The music, he's like a Michael Jackson guy, right? His music, his style and black people cry and complain, but they're all dancing to his music. Well, he ain't black, he's not black. I don't want to bring him to the cookout because he's not one of us. Even Tariq Fraud, they're same people who are going to dance to his music and shit. He's playing like black music, you want to call it that, like Michael Jackson type. It's Bruno Mars, for those of you in Bruno Mars. Barack Obama, right? Meghan Markle, they always quote him. And then I don't know who she is. That's Naomi Osaka, Blasian lady, Japanese mom, Haitian father, and I don't know who they are. That's the Marvel superstar. I think she's from Dominican Republic. Um, so I don't know what her admixture is. She's not 50-50 split, but she's not monoracial. Is that Zaldana? Zoe Zaldana? I believe so. I don't know who she is. And then it's obviously Mulatto Cat from South Africa, Trevor Noah, and there's Blasian, Tiger Woods, and I don't know what the hell. I forgot her name. She's an older lady though. Cool, that's it. It has all names here. Tracy Ellis Ross was the older lady I referenced. This lady, Tracy Ellis Ross. Cool. Sweet. Damn, I got through it. Of course, I'm gonna link this in the description. I'm gonna go back and listen to my whole spew, listen to everything, and then I'm gonna drop some of the references. I'm gonna just go back and listen to everything. I'll have the time codes, the timestamps, and I'll put the article in the description, and I'll have all that stuff for you guys. And in the meantime, I appreciate you guys being here, holding on. This wasn't my best performance. I mean, I can kind of get away with it because I'm not on camera. I could be if I want to be, but usually I do the liberty of being on camera if I do some short video, or if I have a formal interview. Then you get to see my mug all over the place. But yeah, I got off work and I just want to crank this out, but damn, it took me over 2 hours to do this. But this is my commitment to you guys. Mulatto Monday. Every Monday, I try my best and hardest to be here, provide my kind of analysis and commentary on the mulatto discussion, where we fit into things. And it's very important that we analyze these type of articles and these type of discussions, because like I said, there's people out there who are more educated than us. I mean, technically doctorate level sociologists, psychologists at the university level, they have major funding behind them. They're essentially pushing an agenda. They want to put us in a position to serve, to literally eliminate race or bridge the gap between races. But my position is why? Why? That's how we just, my goal is to be an autonomous group of people like everybody else. They get to have their group. That's what I want. But there's people who are similar to us, who are mulatto, mixed race, whatever. They don't necessarily see it that way. They feel like, oh, we can be utilized to bring people together and all this stuff. Like, I'm very diplomatic. It serves us in our best interest for diplomacy, international wise, to come to trade agreements, right? It serves us best to do that. Um, but yeah, I guess everybody strategizes differently. I'm just blessed here to have this discussion with you guys. Tell me what you think. I think I have my emails up here. Hit me up, send me an email, message me on Instagram, all that good stuff. And I'm gonna get the hell out of here. But you guys are gonna hear from me pretty soon. I'll be back maybe in a few days. Make sure you guys catch on the Mulatto's channel. We have let me share it real quick before I get out of here. We have Mulatto news on Wednesday. So make sure you guys check that out. And let me go here. Yeah. So you go to Mulatto's channel. We're gonna have news over there Wednesday. Make sure you guys check that out. Make sure you subscribe. And yeah, I think that's it right now. I don't have any other details for any streams I have planned, but I'm going to continue to keep doing what I'm doing. Talk about the black nationalism, the black identity extremists, and how they're trying to position us, because that's the extreme element from the communita, not the communita, but some of the conspiracy theory grifters who are kind of the overlords. They're taking the preacher mantle now to trying to put us in a position where they want us to serve them. And then you have the liberal progressive side and the white side, so to speak, because the author of this article I read to you today is a white lady with her help, Sarah Gaither. They want us to serve for a more kind of multicultural people of color, which of course will include LGBT. And it's like, well, that's not in the best interest of those of us who are straight heterosexual, who my goal to find a woman, start a family, and be in a community, build with other like-minded people to have families, build legacy, like have a group, have a society, civilization, have a group. So we have to sort these things out because we're getting attacked on different ends. And like I was saying, we have to be strategic and diplomatic. I'm not a victim. I'm not approaching this as a victim. I'm approaching this uh, as a well-informed, the best that I feel like I am, strategic-minded individual. I'm not a victim. I feel like I'm actually very privileged just by chance living in America with all the resources around me. I have pretty much everything I need, but sometimes you can be complacent and you can be stagnant when I could be pushing, harder and forward and putting in more work. I could be doing more. What do I need to do more? But now that I have a group that I can serve and I feel that sense of purpose, it definitely energizes me and I feel good about that. So I appreciate you guys being here. I'm gonna close it out. It's been yeah, it's been a tricky one for me, but nevertheless, it's been great. So appreciate you guys, and until next time, guys.